The meeting of the Committee on Accountability, Finance, and Personnel of the Board of School Directors will please come to an order. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
Director Herndon.
Present.
Director Jackson is asked to be excused. Director Leonard.
Present.
Director Zombor.
Present.
And Chair Garcia.
Present.
That's 4 members present.
The Chair will now ask the Secretary to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. The Chair invites any members of the audience who wish to participate to do so, and asks any of those who do not wish to participate to please remain silent during the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is being conducted from the Central Services Building. This meeting is also being broadcast via live stream on the MPS website and on the MPS YouTube stream, the links to which can be found on the MPS website and the broadcast page. Before we begin tonight's meeting, we have a short announcement regarding interpretation services for the Spanish-speaking members of our audience.
Buenas tardes y bienvenidos a la Junta de la Mesa Directiva de las Escuelas Públicas de Milwaukee. Si desea escuchar esta reunión en español, por favor llame al 312-626-6799 e introduzca el número de reunión 832-0725-4267, seguido por el símbolo de número. Luego, introduzca el código 883149, seguido por el símbolo de número. Nuevamente, para escuchar esta reunión en español, llame al 312-626-6799 e introduzca el número de reunión 832-0725-4267, seguido por el símbolo de número. Luego, introduzca el código 883149, seguido por el símbolo de número.
Thank you. For each of our items of business, we will hold a discussion and public hearing. If you wish to speak, please fill out a speaker's slip and bring it to our Secretary, Ms. Koala. We have no virtual speakers registered. When you are called upon to speak, please state your name and spell your last name for the record. For the sake of fairness and to give everyone a chance to speak, the Chair reserves the right to limit the length of time allowed by any one speaker. Written testimony will be accepted via transmittal for the board. Send the testimony to the Office of Board Governance, P.O. Box 2181, Milwaukee, Wisconsin 53201, or fax to 414-475-8071, or email it to governance@milwaukee.k12.wi.us. Just as a reminder, Robert Rules of Order dictates that all comments should be directed to the chair of the committee. Also, any questions or requests, including those from the public, committee members, or the administration, are to be directed towards the chair, who will then determine the most efficient way to address them. For the safety of all and to ensure a good order of the meeting, harassment or intimidation tactics of any kind will not be tolerated. Anyone who engages in such harassing or intimidating words or actions will immediately be asked to cease. If such behavior continues, a recess will be called and the offending parties will be removed from the meeting. Anyone ejected from the meeting may continue to listen to the meeting or access the agenda items online. However, the individual will not be allowed to rejoin the meeting. Also, no one other than members of the board, designated staff, and those who have been invited to present or participate in the items of business will be allowed on stage before, during, or after meetings of the board and its committees. Finally, for our listening audience, if you wish to access tonight's agenda and attachments online, you may do so by visiting the minutes, agendas, and meetings page on the MPS website. Now let's begin. Madam Secretary, item 1.
Item 1 is action on monthly personnel matters, action on classified personnel transactions, action on certificated appointments, action on leaves of absence, report on resignations and retirements, and the affirmative action report. The recommendation is that the board approve the promotions, appointments, and leaves as listed in the attachments to the item to be effective upon board approval.
Would the administration please present the item?
Chair Garcia and members of the committee, Eduardo Galvan, Acting Superintendent. I have with me Adria Maddaleni, Chief Human Resources Officer, to answer any questions you have as we request your approval for this month's personnel matters. Adria?
Chair Garcia, members of the committee, Adria Maddaleni, Chief Human Resources Officer. This is our standard personnel item where we bring forward any resignations and retirements, any new hires, and leaves of absence and affirmative action reports. And if you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Do committee members wish to make comments? Committee members, do you wish to make any comments or ask questions? Director Leonard?
So I'm going to ask the same question I do probably every month to start with. Compared to last year at this time, what do those numbers look like? They look like we have a lot of people retiring, but I'm not really sure.
Administration?
Chair Garcia, Director Leonard, members of the committee, Adria Maddaleni, Chief Human Resources Officer. I'm happy to say that when it comes to resignations and retirements, we are doing better this year than we did this time last year. In particular, for our teachers, currently we have 371 resignations and retirements. That's going back to July 1 this year. At this time last year, for teachers, we were at 487.
Oh, much
When it comes to our classified staff, this year, so far, we've had 435 resignations and retirements. Last year, we had 522 at this time.
I'm
Any
good.
follow-up?
Thank you. No, that's good.
Director Zambor?
Thank you, Chair Garcia. Would the administration be able to just share, are there any areas where we have a significant number of vacancies that you're concerned about or that you're putting extra effort into going into the school year? Or are you, I'm also wondering if you can bring back to the board, maybe in August, just a list of a list of vacancies in both central office and in the schools so that we can look at that by, school board district, just so we can get a better sense of what's going on as we go into the school year.
Administration?
Chair Garcia, Director Zambor, members of the committee, Adria Maddaleni, Chief Human Resources Officer. Yes, we'd be more than happy to provide that report to give a full-scale picture of where we are staffing-wise for the district. I will say, when it comes to school-based staff, the two biggest areas that I feel that we are targeting and we have concerns on are paraprofessionals with our vacancies. We have a high number of paraprofessional vacancies. And also our children's health assistants. That's one that we have historically had some issues with. And so those are two areas of concern when it comes to school-based staff. We are making significant progress with our teacher vacancies. So I'm hoping that will continue throughout the summer. But those two areas, when it comes to school-based staff, there are potentially some schools. You definitely look at our traditionally hard-to-fill schools in the 53206 area code that we, zip code that we try to support. We put a lot of extra attention to filling positions there. We have stipends in place and some incentives for individuals to take assignments in those schools. So those are the areas in the school-based side. On central office, I think it comes to no surprise, finance is an area that we do have vacancies that we're currently working to fill tonight. And when you'll see in the next item, there are 2 finance positions that we are bringing forward to fill. So I think we are making progress there, but we're definitely working with Office of Accountability and Efficiency to fill those vacancies as quickly as possible.
Any follow-up?
Just a quick follow-up on the stipends that you mentioned. Is it also possible to get information just to see how that's working? How long has it been implemented?
Administration?
Chair Garcia, Director Zombor, members of the committee, Adrian Madeline, Chief Human Resources Officer. The stipends, most of them started at the beginning of last school year. We had a relocation stipend that we offered, the stipend for taking assignments in the 53206 schools that was implemented this past year. And yeah, we would be happy to bring a report on how that's been moving forward.
Any follow-up?
Just a comment. I know you had shared with us how the substitute teacher incentive was working, and so, I mean, it looked like it's working, so it would be interesting to see the 53206 stipend as well. So, thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any members of the public that wish to make comments on this item?
We have no speaker request for this item, Madam Chair.
What is the pleasure of the committee in respect to this item? Director Leonard? Was it him?
Oh, it's on, sorry. I move that we accept the action on the monthly personnel matters presented by administration.
All right, is there any further discussion? All right, seeing none, will the secretary please call the roll?
On the motion by Director Leonard to approve the administration's recommendations, Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Zombor.
Aye.
And Chair Garcia.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes. The motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item 2, action on recommended administrative appointments, promotions, reassignments and reclassifications, salary increases and decreases, and limited term employment LTE contracts exceeding 60 days. The recommendation is that the board approve the appointments, promotions, reassignments and reclassifications, salary increases and decreases, and the limited term employee contracts as listed in the attachments to the item to be effective upon approval by the board.
Thank you. Would administration please present the item?
Chair Garcia and members of the committee, Eduardo Galvan, Acting Superintendent. Tonight, we request your approval of this item. I have with me Adrian Madeline, Chief Human Resources Officer, to outline this item and respond to any questions you may have. Adrian.
Chair Garcia, members of the committee, Adrian Madeline, Chief Human Resources Officer. This is our monthly administrative appointment list. In June, traditionally, we tend to have a smaller list of names, but we're excited to bring some names forward and some, areas that need some support. So we're happy to bring these forward for your approval.
Do committee members wish to make comments or have any questions? Director Zombor.
Thank you, Chair Garcia. Would the administration just be able to talk a little bit more about the appointments related to finance?
Administration?
Or if the Office of Accountability and Efficiency, or whoever's, either one.
Yep, we'll start off with administration. If there's anything to add, Mr. Chasen, you're more than welcome to hop on.
Again, the names that you see are people that have been doing some work already there, and we're just moving them forward to get them approved, and they have been involved in some of the work with OAE in terms of working through some of the existing issues.
Chair Garcia, Director Zombor, members of the committee, Adrian Madeline, Chief Human Resources Officer. I would also like to add, these were all like posted positions that were posted and filled traditionally through our process. We do have a number of other recruitments related to finance that are in various stages, whether it be interview stage, screening process. So we anticipate within the next month or so, we'll have more names in finance to bring.
Any follow-up? Mr. Chasen, go ahead. All right, any other comments or questions? Director Leonard.
So I've been looking at ways to basically make sure that we do a much better job of, promoting people to their highest levels of competency. I have concerns about some of the processes that we've been using over the past 3 years that I've been on the board. So one question I have is, how closely do we subscribe to the federal general schedule classification system? Do you know what that, when I speak of that?
Administration?
Chair Garcia, Director Leonard, members of the committee, that is not something that we've followed, that I'm aware of. We've had our naming conventions and our own process for identifying pay ranges and review of positions.
Any follow-up?
And thank you. And the reason I'm bringing that up is that I'm starting to feel that we have to do a better job of standardizing the process so that everyone knows exactly what's expected of them when they're applying for a position, making sure that we're following through on the procedures in a way that there's no areas for confusion when employees all of a sudden will come back and say, I don't understand why this person was chosen over me. I mean, we get a lot of calls as board directors. We can't really directly intervene in those situations as board directors. That's outside of our parameter, but it does happen quite often. So I'm just sort of bringing this up as a matter of making sure that we understand standard operating procedures when it comes to hiring.
Administration.
Chair Garcia, Director Leonard, yes, we aim to be as consistent as possible and want to be as transparent with regards to the process and hiring. I will say almost all of the administrative appointments that come forward, many of them go through the interview process. We go through postings, we do screenings at the HR level, then we have interviews, first round and second round. We have administrative policy that outlines, like for central office position, who sits on, the interview teams. For instance, you got to have a community member, a principal, things of that nature. We do use VidCruiter, which is a software program where we do the scoring electronically, which helps so that it eliminates any errors of when it comes to identifying what candidate came out first, second, third, whatever it may be. But yes, we aim to be as transparent and understand that we need to ensure that we're having a fair and consistent process that's implemented across the board. Also like to mention, we have the compensation study that we have worked on throughout the year. We're hoping to have some recommendations, further recommendations to bring forward to the board in the near future.
Any follow-up?
Not right now, no, thank you.
Do we have any members of the public that wish to make comments?
We have no speaker requests for this item, Madam Chair.
What is the pleasure of the committee in respect to this item? Director Leonard.
So I'm going to ask that I'd like to advance this item to the regular meeting without a recommendation at this time.
Okay. Can we, is there any further discussion? Director Zambor.
Chair Garcia, thank you, Chair Garcia. Director Leonard, would you be able to, is there something you're going to pull? Like, is there a reason that you want to move it forward without recommendation?
There is a reason I can't say that in public, so
Okay.
it's a personnel matter, so that's why I'm doing that.
Okay. That's helpful to know. Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Will the secretary please call the roll on the motion on the floor?
On the motion by Director Leonard to advance this item to the full board without a recommendation, Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Zambor.
Aye.
And Chair Garcia.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes, the motion passes.
All right, so before we proceed, I know we're going to look at this closer at the full board meeting, so Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item 3, action on negotiated collective bargaining agreements with PAMPS, Psychologists Association in the Milwaukee Public Schools, and MTEA, the Milwaukee Teachers Education Association, teachers, educational assistants, and bookkeepers, accountants. The recommendation is that the board approve the collective bargaining agreements as attached.
Would administration please present the item?
Chair Garcia and members of the committee, Eduardo Galvan, Acting Superintendent. This evening, we are asking your approval of a 4.12% wage increase for all MPS employees to take effect on July 1st, 2024, as indicated in the corresponding attachments. I have with me this evening Ms. Adrienne Madalini, Chief Human Resources Officer, to assist with any questions you may have.
Administration.
Chair Garcia, members of the committee, Adrienne Madaleni, Chief Human Resources Officer. As legally required, we have bargained with MTEA and the PAMS groups. Those are the two collective bargaining units that are recognized by the Wisconsin Employment Relations Commission. Through the negotiation process, we have negotiated and proposed to you a 4.12% increase for that staff. Along those lines, through the budget process, we have indicated and want to have that 4.12% apply across the board to all other employees in the district as well.
Thank you. Do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions about this item? Directors on board.
Thank you, Chair Garcia. Just to clarify, would the 4.12% also include substitute teachers?
Administration.
Chair Garcia, Director Zombor, Adrienne Madaleni, Chief Human Resources Officer, and the answer is yes.
Is there any other comments or questions? All right, do we have any members of the public that wish to make comments?
We have no speaker requests for this item, Madam Chair.
All right, then what is the pleasure of the committee in regards to this item? President Herndon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I recommend that we accept the recommendations of administration on this item.
Is there any further discussion? All right, will the secretary please call the roll?
On the motion by Director Herndon to approve the administration's recommendation, Director Herndon,
Aye.
Director Leonard,
Aye.
Director Zombor,
Aye.
and Chair Garcia.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item 4, action on approval of the 2024-25 salary schedules. The recommendation is that the board approve the 2024-25 salary schedules as presented in the attachment.
Would the administration please present the item?
Chair Garcia and members of the committee, Eduardo Galvan, Acting Superintendent. This evening, we're asking for your approval of the 2024-2025 salary schedule to take effect on July 1st, 2024, as indicated in the corresponding attachment. I have this evening Ms. Adrienne Madalini, Chief Human Resources Officer, to assist with any questions you might have. Thank you.
All right, do committee members wish to make any comments or ask questions about this item? Do any members of the public wish to make comments?
Madam Chair, we had no speaker requests for this item.
Okay, what is the pleasure of the committee in respect to this item? Can I get a motion? Director Leonard.
I move that we accept the salary schedules for the 24-25 school year presented by administration.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? All right, seeing none, will the secretary please call the roll?
On the motion by Director Leonard to approve the recommended salary schedules as attached to this item, Director Herndon,
Aye.
Director Leonard,
Aye.
Director Zombor,
Aye.
and Chair Garcia.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item 5, action on monthly finance matters, authorization to make purchases, informational reports on change orders in excess of $25,000, report of revenues and expenses, monthly expenditure control report, report on contracts under $50,000 and their cumulative totals, report on the monthly grant awards, and the acceptance of donations. The recommendation is that the board, 1, authorize the purchases, and 2, accept the donations as listed in the attachments with appropriate acknowledgement to be made on behalf of the board.
Would the administration please present the item?
Chair Garcia and members of the committee, Eduardo Galvan, Acting Superintendent. For this item, we are requesting your approval of the monthly finance matters. Janita Damchuk, Director of Procurement and Risk Management, is here to assist with any questions you may have regarding this item.
Thank you. Do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? Directors on board.
Thank you, Chair Garcia. Would the administration, I'm looking at the change order report, and I see one for Alverno College for Green Tree Prep. Is it possible just to get a little bit more information about what they'll be doing with Green Tree?
Administration.
And I don't, maybe that's a Bridget Schott question. I'm not sure.
It looks like they're looking for info.
All right,
Janine.
it's on page 1 for Alverno.
All right, Ms. Adamczyk.
Chair Garcia, Directors on Board, members of the committee, Janine Adamczyk, Director of Procurement and Risk Management. This contract was for consulting services that included staff training and planning that was determined by the school, and it was requested by the school itself. I can provide more information by Thursday. Okay.
Any follow-up? No, thank you. All right. Do any other committee members wish to make comments? All right, do we have any members of the public that wish to make comments?
Madam Chair, we had no speaker requests for this item.
Okay, then what is the pleasure of the committee in respect to this item? Oh, wait, do we have more information? Well, let's back up. Go ahead, administration.
Chair Garcia, members of the committee, Jennifer Smith, Regional Superintendent for the high school region. That Alverno contract is related to the creation of rubrics for their 7 skills for success. And so with the creation of the rubrics also comes some professional development as well.
All right. Now, okay. Is there any further discussion on this? All right, what is the pleasure of the committee in respect to this item? President Herndon.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the recommendations of administration on this item.
All right, is there any further discussion? Will the secretary please call the roll?
On the motion by Director Herndon to approve the administration's recommendation, Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Zombor.
Aye.
And Chair Garcia.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes. The motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item 6, action on the award of professional services contracts. The recommendation is that the board authorize the professional services contracts as set forth in the attachments to this item.
Would administration please present the item?
Chair Garcia and members of the committee, Eduardo Galvan, Acting Superintendent. This evening, we are asking for your approval of the professional services contracts before you. Janine Adamczyk, Director of Procurement and Risk Management, is here to assist with any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Do committee members wish to make comments or have any questions? Director Zombor.
Thank you, Chair Garcia. For the PlayWorks contract, are you able to share which schools that contract will cover?
Administration. I think we're getting someone who can
Sorry.
answer that. All right. So the question on the floor right now is in regards to which schools
Yeah, the PlayWorks.
are going to be included in the PlayWorks Education Energized contract. All right, we have some folks coming to the stage. Administration.
Dr. Bowling, Fine Arts Manager, Milwaukee Public Schools. Director Garcia, members of the committee. The PlayWorks contract is not something that we select schools for. Schools actually contract with PlayWorks to help them organize their playgrounds during recess. So it is not a teaching opportunity. Schools can opt to use their board funds to contract with them for professional development or an actual person from PlayWorks to come and assist with their playground duties.
Perfect. Any follow-up?
Yeah, do you know which schools are utilizing PlayWorks for the upcoming school year?
We do not, because those contracts would not have been completed yet.
We can get that information to you.
All right, thank you. That's helpful.
All right. Is there any other questions in regards to that? Director Leonard?
So just want some clarification on the RFP 1098. And this is, in fact, I can't find it here, so I might be in the wrong section, so I apologize for that. But I am assuming that we assume this cost because we are the LEA named, even though these are all for non-public schools, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think that's a different item.
Is that right?
All right, we're, all
Director Garcia.
right, we
Jill
have
Hill
some
will-
folks coming up in here. All right. Administration.
Hill, excuse me,
It's on.
ESCA manager. And as it relates to the RFP 1098, we do provide professional services contract to non-public schools through a third-party vendor, 3 vendors we provide services with.
And that's required.
That is something that we contract out with, correct?
Okay.
Any follow-up?
I do have a different item, though. Can I go to that
Go
right
for
away?
it.
Thank you. I was looking at the MJ Care and nursing. There's actually several places, and I saw the cost involved. That is purely for us to guarantee people if there are vacancies, if I understand that correctly. It was a significant amount of money, and I just want to make a clarification on that.
Administration.
Chair Garcia, Chair Garcia, Director Leonard, members of the committee, Jennifer Mims Howe, Chief Academic Officer. Yes, you are correct. It is to make sure that our vacancies are filled and students receive their services in their schools.
And then if we don't have them filled, so there's, I mean, as an educator for 30 years, there was often, those vacancies were not always filled. That money goes back into where?
Chair Garcia, Director Leonard, members of the committee, Jennifer Mims Howe. The money goes back into the funds for contracts. So for MJ Care, we also use it for speech pathologists. So the contracts are for nurses, speech pathologists, and the other ones that are listed in the same section are for our occupational and physical therapists as well. So any funds not used on a contract return to the contract line for either another contract or renewal of the contract for the next segment.
And then the last question, not more of a request. I'm not asking for this right now, but I would like to know, because I mean, when I look at that 1,000-page budget book, to search for that, to find out how that works with vacancy pays, et cetera, I would like to know how much of that is carried over on an average in the last couple of years, if that's possible.
Administration.
We will provide that information, Director Leonard, Chair Garcia.
Thank you.
That's good.
Would I be able to pass the gavel?
Yes.
Right. Thank you.
I have the gavel.
Yeah, so I guess my question is in regards to, I know with the blanket contracts that we have that, you know, for specifically for Playworks, and I think that this is something that was also verbalized in the audience today, but it's a question that has been reverberating. It's more of, maybe this is a really good opportunity for us to really map out, you know, what the needs are in regards to physical education, like, and identify where the gaps are, as a way for us to prioritize, you know, how schools are tapping into this, you know, service that we are contracting with. So yeah, I would like to see a like recommended strategy that addresses, you know, the gaps that we currently see.
Administration.
Chair Garcia, members of the committee, again, just to clarify with Playworks, it's not necessarily in relation to physical education. In many of our schools, it's contracted would be, PD would look like staff gets PD on how to engage students while they are outside at playground. Some of them, depending upon what they decide to do, might contract an actual Playworks personnel to come and run some of those games and that nature. And in terms of PE vacancies, we can surely get that information.
Perfect, yes. I would just like to see more of a strategy before we just open it up to everyone of like, how can we utilize this as an opportunity to, you know, target schools that are having issues in the playground and, you know, really address those needs that are kind of been bubbling because of the, you know, lack of staffing. Thank you. I'll take the gavel. All right, so is there any further discussion on this item? Do we have any members of the public that wish to make comments?
Sorry, we have no speaker request for this item, Madam Chair.
Okay. Will the secretary, I guess, what is the pleasure of the committee in regards to this item? Anyone want to make a motion? President Herndon?
I move that we accept the recommendation of administration, but bring back the information that you requested in full board, if at all possible, if that's not too short a term.
All right. Ms. Koala, is that registered? All right. Madam Secretary, can you please call the roll?
On the motion by Director Herndon to approve the administration's recommendation, Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Zombor.
Aye.
And Chair Garcia.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
Next item is item 7, action on the award of exception to bid contracts. The recommendation is that the board authorize the exception to bid contracts as set forth in the attachments to this item.
All right. Would administration please present the item?
Chair Garcia and members of the committee, Eduardo Galvan, Acting Superintendent. We are asking your approval of this month's exceptions to bid contracts. Janine Adamczyk, Director of Procurement and Risk Management, is with me to assist with any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Do committee members wish to make comments or have any questions? Director Zambor.
Thank you, Chair Garcia. For number 6, the Heritage Inn of Sacramento contract, which I believe is for international recruit lodging. I'm just wondering why this particular contract is exception to bid.
Administration.
Chair Garcia, Director Zombor, members of the committee, Janine Adamczyk, Director of Procurement and Risk Management. This was the only vendor that was able to provide us with the number of rooms at the times that we needed, so that is why it's an exception to bid.
Any follow-up? Thank you. Do any other members have any comments or questions? All right, do any members of the public wish to make comments?
Madam Chair, we have no request to speak on this item.
Thank you. Then what is the pleasure of the committee in respect to this item? Director Leonard.
I move that we accept the exception to bid, information given to us by the administration.
Is there any further discussion? All right, seeing none, will the secretary please call the roll?
On the motion by Director Leonard to approve the administration's recommendation, Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Zombor.
Aye.
And Chair Garcia.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item 8, action on a request to waive administrative policy 3.09, parent 9, parent E, to enter blanket purchase orders for the mathematics K through 8, algebra 1, geometry, algebra 2, trigonometry, pre-calculus, AP calculus, and AP statistics textbook adoption, and the English as a second language textbook adoption. The recommendation is that the board authorize the request to waive administrative policy 3.09, parent 9, parent E, and authorize the purchase orders as set forth in the attachments to this item.
Thank you. Would administration please present the item?
Chair Garcia and members of the committee, Eduardo Galvan, Acting Superintendent. I have with me Ms. Janine Adamczyk, Director of Procurement and Risk Management, to outline this item as we request your approval to waive Administrative Policy 3.09 and respond to any questions you may have.
Thank you.
Chair Garcia, members of the committee, Janine Adamczyk, Director of Procurement and Risk Management. We're bringing these items, requesting that the Administrative Policy 3.09 with respect to term be waived so that these purchase orders, blanket purchase orders, may be extended for a term of 8 years. This will ensure that we maintain our price levels, or the costs with respect to each vendor that was selected. We did do an RFP process for each requested item here, and after numerous discussions with the vendors and a best and final offer request, we selected these vendors based upon committee recommendation for, after review of the samples that were provided to the committee. We believe these are the best textbooks that we can offer our children at this time.
Thank you. Do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? President Herndon.
Yes, I have a question in relation to the 8-year period. And I was wondering, what do you get out of that? Do they retain the same price structure? In other words, there would not be a price increase? Or would there be one, but maybe slightly less than it would have normally been?
Chair Garcia, Director Herndon, members of the committee, Janina Damchik, Director of Procurement and Risk Management. By securing an 8-year term, there will be no price increase
Okay.
for those 8 years.
And Mr. Chason, do you want to add to that?
Chair Garcia, Matt Chason, Office of Accountability and Efficiency. This also aligns this purchase to your textbook policy, which states that when the board has adopted any textbook instructional material for use in the schools, these shall not be changed for 8 years thereafter. So this supports alignment with that policy of an 8-year term on adoption.
Any follow-up? No? All right, so we do have 2 speakers that have requested. So I'm going to ask Ms. Angela Harris to please come up, followed by Ms. Angela Lucas-Foley.
Point of information before I start my time,
Yes.
since there's only 2 speakers,
Sure.
would the chair allow 3 minutes to speak?
Sure.
Thank you so much. Angela Harris, Harris. I am the chair of Black Educators Caucus MKE, but today I'm speaking to you as a 2nd grade teacher. I'm asking the board today to hold this item. I think that now is not the time to adopt a new math curriculum. I also am extremely concerned when I think about, in particular, our students' math scores and holding on to a curriculum for 8 years, especially if it's a curriculum that is not producing any academic achievement. I would also question who was at the table when this curriculum was chosen. Because as I was just doing a little bit of research on my phone, this curriculum isn't even in the top 10 of best math curriculums for school districts. I'm specifically talking about the iReady math curriculum for the K through 8 students. So I have that question as well. And then I want to specifically address Act 20, you all. I don't think that we are adequately prepared for what is about to come with that legislation. So one of the parts of that legislation states that if a child is performing at 25% below grade level. And so for me, that looks like students that are performing either below or well below grade level, they have to have a personalized reading plan. This school year, I had 27 scholars. 17 of those scholars were performing at below or well below reading level. So that would be 17 personalized reading plans that I would have to create. I'm not certain when I would do that, because there's no collaborative time allowed. There's very minimal collaborative time allowed. My administrator actually often robs Peter to pay Paul. You know that analogy. He has 4 45-minute professional development staff meeting time a month. So he uses one of those just so we can have collaborative time as a staff. He shouldn't have to do that. We should have collaborative time outside of the classroom, as well as planning and prep time to get us prepared, not just for what's going to happen with Act 20, but what happens in our classrooms every single day. And so I ask you all to hold this item. This money can be used in turn to prepare us for Act 20, professional development, bringing back collaborative teacher time, as well as doing all of the things that we're going to need to prepare for this type of training. And I just want to say this. So I spent the last day of school doing professional development in my classroom, letters training, for 30 minutes on my smart board while I was getting my classroom together. That is not how we build knowledge in our educators. We need dedicated professional development time for Act 20 moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Angela Lucas-Foley, please.
Good evening. Lucas Foley, Lucasfoley. Interim Superintendent Dr. Galvan, Chair Garcia, President Herndon, and Board Directors. You were elected and have been placed, and in some cases, bought and bullied, but today is another day, another great day of reckoning for this city and this district. I am here tonight to speak against the math textbook adoption. That this item costs the district $31.5 million. I'm not going to patronize you, but we know that millions are leaving, being revoked, missing. 17% of our students in the district are reading at proficient or above. 17%. This is 2% higher than 10 years ago. It will take us 289 years to get 80% of our students reading at proficiency if we allow this to continue. Does the math textbook curriculum involve a high load of reading? What is the implication for that? In 2016, previous Superintendent Darian Driver had 20 hours of monthly professional development time and collaborative time available to schools and administrators. In the span of 8 years, that time, and this is a generous estimation, is 4 hours a month. If the school week is less than 5 days, a Monday off, a Friday off, a snow day, the principal is waived of their right for any professional development time. So do the quick math in your head. Again, 17% of our students have the knowledge that is their civil right, which is to read. We have a lot of attention on our city. We can keep playing games. I got a hat for days, I got glasses for days. But at the expense of who? And why? Part of your purview as AFP committee members is within the duties and contracts of teacher time that you can put back in what you've taken away as far as teacher collaboration time. It is not an addition to a job description. It is part of professional planning and professional expectation. Every single one of us standing in this room right now knows someone or loves someone who attends a flagship school. That includes me and my children. Every single flagship school in this district has compassion tax. Compassion tax is doing more because we want to, doing more because I believe in my counterpart colleague, doing more because I know this baby is so close and just needs a little more. How do we build compassion tax into every single school in this district? Play games. Go ahead, let's play games as adults, but on the backs of children and villainizing parents. When you and I both know if my kid or your niece was at one of those schools, you would be mad as hell too. I know I'm past time, but I have one more thing. The change we are asking for will be uncomfortable. It still will cost allegiances. It may even threaten personal livelihood. But rest in this. Nothing about how this district and its power brokers run is good for children. Nothing. I'm pleading, again, take a brave, deep breath and do what you know is right.
Thank you. Do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? Director Leonard.
So I too have been doing my homework, and I've been concerned about this for the simple fact that this is the wrong time to do this. I know we're talking about saving costs for 8 years, and that's a very good thing, but the reality is that when I've spoken to just dozens of teachers, they have said, I don't need this right now, this is not necessary, I feel like we are wasting a significant amount of money for this district. And now I have the money at $22 million for the actual textbook adoption. We have a deficit that we're going to be going into, so that would really cut that deficit by almost 50%. And also, they have brought up to my attention that it singles out for AP classes, but not IB classes. And one thing that I'm very concerned about, and this is something that, as a teacher, I remember this for the last 30 years practically, but the contracts to apply for these contracts with our district, they can go up to 70 pages long. So a lot of smaller publishers, they don't have the staff to be putting that together. So I'm not sure if we're even getting the best deal possible. Maybe we are. I don't know. But the timing of this is just not right. And I know that I will recommend postponing this item for sure. So thank you.
Okay.
Madam
Secretary, yes.
Chair, could I clarify, was that a motion? Or just a comment?
Well, it was a comment, to be honest with you. So
Okay, thank you.
Would you like to make it into a motion?
I'd be happy to make it into motion.
All right, let's do this.
I move that we would postpone this adoption of this textbook adoption at this time.
All right, so just point of clarification for the secretary. It can be postponed, and do we need to set a time frame?
I guess that would need some clarification too. Are you talking about holding this item in committee before the committee makes a recommendation? Or would that be a directive to the administration?
No, this would be a directive to the administration to postpone it altogether.
All right. Is there further discussion? I see Director Zambor's hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Garcia. I do have a couple questions for administration, and well, also just a comment. I've actually heard different feedback from teachers and from people who've, talked to people who sat on the textbook adoption committee. So I'm wondering if the administration can talk about what the textbook adoption committee process is, who sits on the committee, what is the process so that the board knows, because my understanding it's a very in-depth process. And I think the public needs to know what that process is and how these recommendations come forward.
Administration.
Director Garcia, the committee, Melissa Hedges, kindergarten to grade 5 math curriculum specialist. I can give you an overview of how the committee members were selected when this process began, and then the committee makeup. Our committees were brought together we advertised for people to volunteer for the committees in November. We received multiple applicants of people that were interested in sitting on the committees. We ended up we had over 127 actually MPS teachers apply to the various committees. Our committee members, as the process worked itself through, they represented 24 unique schools and numerous institutional programs, including bilingual, dual language, language immersion, Montessori, monolingual schools, general education, special education, and AP and IB schools. We had 6 committees that met multiple times, at least 10 times, to review materials. And we had our first committee was a kindergarten to grade 2 committee. Our second committee was a kindergarten to grade 5 committee. Our third committee was a grade 6 to grade 8 committee. We also had a committee that focused on Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2, Pre-Calculus and AP Calculus, and AP Stats. The committees began meeting. The committees began meeting in February. They met February 15th and February 22nd at North Division for 2 hours each. During that time, we provided professional development for those committee members on standards, as well as the vision to improve mathematics achievement for our students in MPS. We then went on to meet for 2 more hours on March 5th, March 12th, March 19th, April 2nd, and April 9th, both times for 3 hours. To be able to look at materials, review materials, and then connect those materials back to our evaluation criteria. In between those times, committee members put in a minimum of 35 to 40 hours independently reviewing those materials. So they were able to come to our committee meetings ready to talk and ready to evaluate the materials based on our criteria.
Any follow-up, Director Zambor?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Garcia. So I just want to say, thank you to everyone who committed. That's a significant amount of time. And I and strongly against delaying this. I think it's a slap in the face to people who put that time in there for us to dismiss their recommendation. And so.
Those committee members aren't in the classroom.
Right, order, please.
I just want to express that I think
Order, please.
it's, we need to understand what a delay would mean to, procurement, to the curriculum. Like, I think we have to be very careful in delaying.
Are you talking about the same preparation you prepared teachers with during the COVID pandemic?
All right,
But you did not provide training for those.
excuse me, there's one speaker that wants to speak. I do encourage folks, if you want to say something, please. All right, perfect. So I'm going to ask Ms. DeShonda Bailey to come up.
Last name is Bailey, Bailey, DeShonda. Just have a few questions as we're trying to have possible action on these things. I hear you saying that these committee members put in so much time, but how much time have these committee members actually spent going into the classrooms and meeting these kids where they're at? How much time have you board members put in or invested into the actual curriculum we have now? The curriculum keeps changing. Why are we continuing year after year to buy new textbooks, new curriculum, but you're not even properly training your teachers to use the curriculum that's already in place? Instead of trying to buy new curriculum, how about you let the teachers that have actually been in the classroom, putting in the hard work, trying to meet our students where they're at? Exactly. How about you try to give them a little bit more support in the curriculum that's already there? The millions you already spent investing in these dollars that you keep throwing away every year. Changing the curriculum is not going to change the outcomes. You actually have to provide what you lie and say you're going to provide. You actually have to stop making it sound good and actually make it do good by actually being more action. All this talk about, it sounds good in these meetings. It sounds great. Zambar, it's a joke coming from you. When's the last time you've actually, I'm not going to direct anything directly to you all, but I just have a question.
Say it to me.
When has,
Go ahead.
Director Garcia,
Yes.
when has Director Zambar, when's the last time Director Zambar has stepped foot into a classroom? When is the last time she's been in any school in her district to get an actual account of how her teachers feel? Director Garcia, when have you gone into any of your classrooms in your district? President Herndon, this is for every board member. Can you please go around the board and state the last time you actually been inside of any of your district schools and spent quality time with the parents, the students, and community that you all say you do? Your paperwork say you do it, but when is it actually happening? Because I can actually bring parents from each of your districts that said they never seen you a day in their life. They couldn't point you out from a strange face in audience. So let's try with coming up with real solutions instead of spending more money buying new textbooks. Where I have a question, when we go in and if we go ahead and change the curriculum, how many of our teachers are going to be ready come the first day of school with this new curriculum? How can we change curriculum without proper training? All of this professional development is a joke because you also train your special ed teachers to perform and do certain things that are not happening. You continue to label our students, but you are not being there for student, family, or community. I demand you to stop making these blanket statements because it sounds good. Yes, Zambar, it's going to cause for you to be a little uncomfortable and put in a little bit more of that time you say you put in, but we're not ready yet. Because again, please have each director go by and say how it is that we feel the current curriculum isn't working. What data do we have to show that it's not working other than the failing test scores? What training have you provided to our teachers to show that you've exuded all resources to make sure that we are using the current curriculum with everything it entails? Because have you actually looked at it?
Ms. Bailey, thank you. These are great
And
questions.
then again, with our district, shouldn't all schools be performing in uniformity? Shouldn't all schools have the same curriculum so that the schools on the south side can actually have data that matches the schools on the north side because the curriculum is the same? That's
you.
not currently how we operate. Director Garcia, last question. Can you please go around to each of your directors because they represent their districts and ask them what's the current mathematics curriculum, reading curriculum, what's the current curriculum in their district? And it should be uniform, but we all know it's not.
Thank you.
Thank
for
you.
that. Thank you, Ms. Bailey. All right, is there any further discussion? All right, we do have a motion on the floor. So, Secretary, please call the roll.
On the motion by Director Leonard to direct the administration to postpone the adoption of the item, Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Zombor.
No.
And Chair Garcia.
Aye.
That's 3 ayes, 1 no. The motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item 9, action on monthly facilities matters, the FMS award of professional services contract and change order recommendation. The recommendation is that the board approve the attached professional services contract and the change order.
Would administration please present the item?
Chair Garcia and members of the committee, Eduardo Galvan, Acting Superintendent. I have here with me Sean Kane, Senior Director of Facilities and Maintenance, to address any questions you may have regarding this month's facilities matters. Thank you. Sean.
Thank you, Mr. Galvan. Chair Garcia, members of the committee, Sean Kane, Senior Director of Facilities and Maintenance. There's 2 items that we're looking to have, take a look at. We have a professional service contract for moving and then also a notice for additional work at a Pulaski roof.
All right, do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions on this item? Director Leonard.
How are we doing with the Pulaski roof? I mean, when I read that, I came to realize that we've got more to do. I'm assuming that there was more that they found that they had to do, or I'm not quite sure what came of that.
Mr. Kane?
Chair Garcia, Director Leonard, members of the committee, Sean Kane, Senior Director for Facilities and Maintenance Services. We currently have a contract for a couple $1 million that was doing about 20% of the footprint of the current roof. This last 5% is what's finishing it out. So this has been an ongoing project for about a decade, but at this point, this will replace the full roof.
Thank you. All right, do we have any members of the public that wish to make comments?
We have no speaker request for this item, Madam Chair.
All right, then what is the pleasure of the committee in respect to this item? Oh, Mr. Chasen.
Thank you, Chair Garcia. Matt Chasen, Office of Accountability and Efficiency. Our bidding requirements make it explicit that change orders in excess of the amount noted here have to be notified to the board. What is the administration's practice or policy as it relates to just projects overall? A project could be made up of any number of contracts. And if that project scope itself should change over time, what is the practice of the administration to bring that information and updates to the board?
Administration?
Mr. Jason, Chair Garcia, members of the committee, Sean Kane, Senior Director for Facilities and Maintenance Services. Typically, for a project like this, for roofing, we bid it out, per board policy 3.09. We bid it out, take bids, vet them to make sure that they meet the requirements as part of the contract. So in this case, we had a good instance where we had the contractor that's currently working on the project right now, but we did have this bid out as components where there was already, in case the bids came in over, which it did, so we already had a bid for this previously with the contractor. They were still able to honor the cost as part of the change order, so that actually we got an MPS benefit for this.
Any follow-up? All right. This item? All right, so we do have one speaker on this item, is Shonda Bailey. Please come back up.
How you doing? Last name Bailey, DeShonda.
Yes, spell it into the record, please.
Oh, again, B-A-I-L-E-Y, DeShonda.
Thank you.
We hear of these contracts that's been going on for over a decade. Can we see them? The public would like to have some input. What are these contracts and why has it been going on for so long? What's in them? We like to see the fine print. Open it up so that we can have a say because, again, for over a decade, you guys make promises that are not being kept. We need transparency. So just to get up here and say things without any proof, without showing us, that's not going to suffice anymore. So please provide us with these contracts that have been delayed for over a decade. That's absolutely absurd. You're okay with coming here and saying that? Please provide us with transparency. Provide us with the contract. Let us know why it's prolonging for so long and what needs to be done and what input we can have in actually making things move along.
Is that all? Mm-hmm. All right, thank you. And, you know, to the questions for the public, can we just go through how are these information available to the public? I know that they're somewhere in the cyber universe. How can folks find that?
You talking about the website that's incredibly difficult to navigate through, even to get agenda meetings? You talk about that
Chair
website,
Garcia,
the MPS
members
website?
of the board, when these come across as initial contracts, they do go through the procurement process, and they are then presented to the board, so they should be public record to the board, and they would be in the board minutes.
Thank you, Ms. Koala. Can you just be a little bit more specific as to where folks can find it?
Madam Chair, members, there is a page on the website. I think Mr. Chasen could speak to what's on there a little bit more. But then if, for contracts that are under the value where it doesn't get posted on the website, people can make a public records request through the Office of Board Governance.
All right, thank you.
Public record requests
And then
are
Mr. Chasen?
Yeah, so per board, Chair Garcia, Matt Chasen, Office of Accountability and Efficiency. So per board action, any contract over $50,000 is supposed to be posted on the OAE website. And we do have a contract page that's available there. And that listing goes back, I believe, a decade. So all those contracts would be available there. But if something was not available, please contact our office. We do want to make sure that we maintain good quality control on that. And if anything is less than that, to the board clerk's point, that would be available via an open records request.
Perfect. Thank you for that clarification. What is the pleasure of the committee in respect to this item?
So President Garcia, just for clarity, how can we navigate to that page? Because he just said it's on the website, somewhere in cyber universe. Where? How do we navigate?
I'll get right back to you, Ms. Bailey. Let me just get through this part right here. Is there any further discussion?
You're gonna take action without telling us how we can access the document?
So for the public, and to specify, we will make a direct link. Is that possible? That a button that can direct us to that page?
Oh, they don't know. They gotta point fingers. They don't want to say yes or no.
Director Garcia, as Mr. Chasen explained, the OAE has a webpage where they can look through that. Also, they can make a request, an open records request to the board.
Perfect. All right, so there is a dedicated space for that. We'll make sure that that is a little bit more visible, and then make sure that we...
Turnaround time for a records request, because right now it seems to be
That we will get back to you.
never ending.
All right, will the secretary please call the roll?
Madam Chair, we don't have a motion on the
We
floor.
don't have a motion. Does anyone want to make a motion on this item? Director Leonard.
I move that we accept the exception to bid, or monthly facilities matters. Sorry, thank you.
Thank you. Will the secretary now please call roll?
On the motion by Director Leonard to approve the administration's recommendations, Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Zombor.
Aye.
And Chair Garcia.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes. The motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item 10, action on a request to approve the Second Amendment to the lease agreement with the UW-Madison Pre-College Enrichment Opportunity Program of Learning Excellence, PEOPLE. The recommendation is that the board approve the attached Second Amendment to the lease agreement between Milwaukee Public Schools and the University of Wisconsin-Madison Pre-College Enrichment Opportunity Program of Learning Excellence.
Would administration please present the item?
Chair Garcia and members of the committee, Eduardo Galvan, Acting Superintendent. I have Dr. John Hill and Sean Kane here with me tonight to share on this item as we request your approval. I will now turn it over to Dr. Hill. Sean?
Thank you, Mr. Galvan. Chair Garcia, members of the committee, Sean Kane, Senior Director for Facilities and Maintenance Services. As mentioned, this is a second amendment to extend the lease at Rufus King Middle School, including the PEOPLE program, which is the Pre-College Enrichment Opportunity Program of Learning of Excellence. And just for some background, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Hill.
Good evening, Chair Garcia, members of the committee. The PEOPLE program started in Milwaukee back in 1999, and it is a program that we are very fortunate to have here in Milwaukee Public Schools. There is only one other district in the state that they serve, and that's the Madison Public School District. And it is a pre-college program that supports our students from freshman year in high school all the way through graduation, and if they attend UW-Madison, they have the opportunity to continue in that program at Madison, and it provides a number of services to the students. It is a great value to the district, so just in staffing alone, they are providing services, if we just look at staff costs, of over $700,000 a year. That costs us nothing. Another $500,000 plus a year in programming for our students. And then students that do complete the program successfully and are admitted to UW-Madison also have the opportunity to earn tuition scholarship. And that is valued at $10,426 per year per student. What's also very special about the PEOPLE program is we have a number of alumnus who have gone through the program as students and have come back to MPS either as teachers, administrators, and I believe even a board director.
That's right. All right. Thank you for that. And I, in full disclosure, I did greatly benefit from this program. So I was actually part of the first class of the PEOPLE program. So that program, I think, has been instrumental in being able to actualize, the dream of reaching college, but most importantly, the financial support. So I'm just glad to see that this partnership is continuing and that it's starting at an earlier time, because this is focusing on middle school years and really looking at the way that we can best prepare students for that. So yeah, I just wanted to share the fact that, it's a great program. I can't talk enough about it. All right. So do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? All right. Do we have any members of the public? All right. So we do have Ms. DeShonda Bailey.
Oh, no, thank you. I wrote down the wrong item.
The wrong item? Okay. All right. So then what is the pleasure of the committee in respect to this item? Can I get a motion? Director Zambor.
I move approval of the administration's recommendation on a request to approve the UW-Madison pre-college lease agreement.
All right. Is there any further discussion? All right. Seeing none, will the secretary please call the roll?
On the motion by Director Zambor to approve the administration's recommendation, Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Zambor.
Aye.
And Chair Garcia.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Next item, please.
The next item is item 11, follow-up with possible action on Resolution 2425R-001 on the relocation of Carmen High School. The recommendation is that the board hold this item until the October board cycle.
Would the administration please present the item?
Chair Garcia and members of the committee, Eduardo Galvan, Acting Superintendent. Administration has been in communication with the author of Resolution 2425R-001 and recommends that this item be carried over to the October Committee on Accountability, Finance, and Personnel.
All right, do we have any members of the committee that wish to make questions? Or maybe Director Zomber, if you want to speak to your request to hold this item?
Thank you, Chair Garcia. So I know originally at the meeting where we first discussed this resolution, there were some questions that we needed administration to come back before we could vote. And I just wanted to make sure with the transition in administration, the transition with finance, I want to make sure that we have the best information possible when we actually do vote on this resolution. So I'm asking, I am making a motion to hold this item until October. But I also wanted to know if there's any way to get, I know there was a question around if Carmen and Pulaski were, I think Pulaski had a request for a possible, for more space next year if Carmen is not going to be at that full 800. And I'm just wondering what the status of that request is. And what we can expect just moving forward. And then, but I think I'm comfortable holding this till October.
Administration?
Chair Garcia, members of the committee, Bridget Schacht, Director of Contracted School Services. We have had preliminary discussion with Carmen. They are also in transition of some leadership that start at the beginning of next month. So we can have those further discussions with them for potential a lease amendment that would require us to bring back for board approval.
Do we have any members of the public that wish to make comments?
Madam Chair, we have no speaker requests for this item.
I just have a few questions.
All right, what is the pleasure of the committee in respect to this item?
Madam Chair, you do have a motion on the floor to hold the item to the October board cycle.
That's right, I'm sorry about that. All right, is there any further discussion?
Madam Chair, we just got a speaker slip if you care to entertain the request.
Absolutely, is it Ms. Bailey? Come on.
How you doing?
Hi. All right, Ms. Bailey, go ahead.
I just had a quick question for transparency. Since we have Carmen High School on the speaking block, isn't it true that Carmen received a PPP loan in addition to all of the COVID funding and all the other funds? Didn't they receive a PPP loan as well? Just question for transparency, because there seems to be a whole lot of funds missing. Just wanted the public to know that Carmen did receive a PPP loan, if you guys can touch on the truth and transparency of that.
All right. Thank you for that. Do we have any further discussion? All right, will the secretary please call the roll?
On the motion by Director Zombor to hold this item in committee until the October board cycle, Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Zombor.
Aye.
And Chair Garcia.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item 12, action on a request to approve the Milwaukee Public Schools confidentiality agreement with the Milwaukee Health Department. The recommendation is that the board approve the Milwaukee Public Schools agreement with the Milwaukee Health Department to enter and update the immunization records for students in the Wisconsin Immunization Registry.
Thank you. Would administration please present the item?
Chair Garcia and members of the committee, Eduardo Galvan, Acting Superintendent. This evening, I am joined by Jennifer Mims Howell. We request your approval of the confidentiality agreement with the Milwaukee Health Department, and we can address any concerns you may have.
Chair Garcia, members of the committee, Jennifer Mims Howe, I serve as Chief Academic Officer. During the COVID pandemic, Milwaukee Public Schools assisted the Health Department in tracking and contact tracing for the coronavirus for the students of Milwaukee Public Schools. Administration is now asking that the two agencies have a formal agreement so that the Milwaukee Health Department can assist Milwaukee Public Schools in updating the immunization records for our students. During the month of October is our immunization exclusion week. By having this partnership, Milwaukee Health Department could use the information inside the registry to help update for the students of Milwaukee Public Schools, hence having less students excluded during this week. Administration recommends that you approve this memorandum of understanding between the two agencies. We're available for any questions you may have.
Thank you. Do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? Director Leonard?
Yeah, just a comment. Yeah, any kind of cohesive kind of work between the different interagencies would really be helpful, especially for our district. This actually would have been really helpful to have when COVID first hit, because that information would have been shared much more quickly to a lot of people that could have really had a better, we could have done a little bit more work in the community to sort of hold off on the ravages of this disease. But nevertheless, I'm all for this. I think this is the right direction to go. Thank you.
But didn't this district manipulate?
Do any members of the committee want to make other comments?
The longest,
No?
nationwide.
Do we have any members of the public that wish to make comments?
Madam Chair, we had no speaker requests for this item.
All right, then. What is the pleasure of the committee in respect to this item? Director Leonard.
So I motion that we accept the administration's response to the Milwaukee Health Department and Milwaukee Public Schools sharing of records.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? All right, seeing none, will the secretary please call the roll?
On the motion by Director Leonard to approve the administration's recommendation, Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Zomber.
Aye.
And Chair Garcia.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item 13, action on approval of a request to apply for permit and licensure to operate a hospitality and tourism food truck to be created by Bayview High School's NAF Academy. The recommendation is that the board authorize the administration to pursue city permit and licensure for the creation of the food truck created by Bayview High School's NAF Academy.
Would administration please present the item?
Chair Garcia and members of the committee, Eduardo Galvan, Acting Superintendent. This evening, I am joined by Dr. Jennifer Smith as we request your approval to request a permit for the tourism food truck for Bayview High School's NAF Academy and address any questions you may have. Thank you, Dr. Smith.
Chair Garcia, members of the committee, just some brief background on this exciting opportunity for Bayview High School and for our district. About 3 years ago, Bayview received a grant from the National Academy Foundation, or NAF Foundation, to support the creation of a school-based food truck that bridges the school and the community. The purpose of the food truck is to create a work-based learning venture where students in the culinary arts NAF Academy can use their culinary skills, but also learn best practices in business operating a food truck in the city of Milwaukee. We highlighted the NAF Academy programs in our regional showcase this spring, and this is just another example of the work experiences that our NAF programs support. Mr. Gaddis, the Bayview principal, is here tonight, as well as our culinary arts teacher, Ms. Sims. But this is really a collaborative effort from the Office of School Administration, our Bayview NAF Board, which Director O'Halloran is a part of, the Procurement Office, Facilities and Maintenance, the City Attorney's Office. We have all been working collaboratively to bring this to the point where we now have the food truck renovations approved, we have funds secured for the equipment, and now we are seeking approval to apply for the food truck permit with the City of Milwaukee. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have regarding this opportunity.
Thank you. Do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? No? All right. Do we have any members of the public that wish to make comments?
Madam Chair, we had no speaker slips for this item.
Can I get it out? I got a slip with my wife's name, but I'll fill it out real quick. I have a question about this.
All right. As you get that together, get your slip in, and then we'll call you, and then we'll go to Director O'Halloran right now.
I just wanted to thank administration and thank everybody at Bayview High School. I know that this has been a dream a long time coming, and so I know it hasn't necessarily been a very straightforward path, kind of navigating, a pathway that we haven't done before. So I just really want to thank you all for pursuing this. I want to thank everybody at Bayview High School for keeping this dream alive, and I am hoping that my committee members will support this recommendation from administration. Thank you.
All right. All right, I see a slip coming. All right, in the meantime, do we have any other comments or? And you said that the principal is here in the audience? Or?
Chair Garcia, members of the committee, yes, Mr. Gaddis is here, as well as Ms. Sims, our culinary arts teacher, in support of this item.
Excellent.
She don't know. You don't have to point them out.
All right. Mr. Harris, Jamal Harris.
Jamel Harris, Harris. Could we get some more clarification and explanation of what the NAF program is about and how many schools have that currently and we're not just singling out little pet projects for hand-picked schools? Can we share that information with the community? Because this sounds like this could be great for a lot of schools in our district, but we know the district struggles with equity. We know the district struggles with replicating success. We know the district struggles with creating solutions. So I'd love to hear more about this NAF program and how you all plan to expand it throughout the district and not only create pet projects for particular communities. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And I will get those questions submitted, but I know that right now, maybe you can just talk a little bit more about, just for the public record, what exactly is the NAF Academy and what does that looks like in MPS?
Chair Garcia, members of the committee, Jennifer Smith, Regional Superintendent for the High School Region. The NAF Academies are National Academy Foundations. They support work-based learning opportunities within the high school programs at 9 of our schools. I'm struggling to come up with all of them right now, but Bayview, JMAC, Marshall, North, South, Reagan, thank you, Audubon, I'm missing one more. Washington High School is the one I'm missing. So our NAF academies focus on everything from hospitality and tourism, which we have at Bayview as well as at JMAC, but we also have South Division has a NAF academy for Academy of Education as well as Health Sciences. So this is a combination of classroom-based instruction, focused on job readiness skills, but also work opportunities that happen outside of the classroom, in which this food truck opportunity is another one of those opportunities available. We have internships, we have job shadowing experiences that our students in the NAF academies participate in. And this year, we were very proud to have 4 of our NAF academies, or 4 schools, recognized as distinguished.
Very nice. Thank you for that information. We do have one more speaker, Ms. Anne Marie Sims. She'll make her way to the podium. And then Ms. Bailey, you're next.
Hello. My name is Anne Marie Sims, last name S-I-M-S. I'm a proud educator of MPS schools, a graduate of MPS schools, and I have had the fortunate opportunity to establish this culinary program. I am one of the only initial culinary arts teachers that are still here in the district. I've been here for 8 years, going into 9. It has been my dream and my students' dream to start a business because we have too many kids out here in the streets stealing cars and robbing people. And I have an opportunity to establish this food truck so we can give our babies a summer job. So the culinary arts program and this food truck has been created from the ideas and the hearts and the passion of the people that I work with, and more importantly, the kids that I've served over the last 8 years. So this food truck is not only going to be allocated for the Bayview students, the door will also be open for the students that attend Washington High School, Madison High School, and Vincent High School. But Vincent also has an agriculture program that they necessarily don't need to partner with us. So again, I'm asking that this be passed, and then the community also understands that a lot of hard work and dedication has gone into this, and I'm not quitting, and I want this to go through.
Thank you for that, Ms. Sims, and thank you and to all the collaborators that have brought this forth to the place that we can actually take action on it. All right, so our last speaker on this item is Bailey.
Just had a quick question, in the selection process, because she stated that there are 9 NAF schools, how was Bayview chosen? Was that just their board came up with this food truck idea? How can it be expanded to those 8 other schools so that we can possibly have food trucks not only on the south side, but also at the JMAC and the Marshall, because some of those schools are in close proximity to one another where they can team and partner together if we had one on the north side as well as the south side.
Thank you for that question. And based on Ms. Sims' narrative today, there has been, this type of program is tied specifically to educational programs in the high school. So, for example, South Division has one focus on education. You know, right now we're seeing hospitality. So depending on like the focus of each school and the program that they wish to have, that's when, you know, this, the NAF program is a good way to bring in extra resources and support. I know that there's questions in terms of, you know, how schools are selected. So I don't know, Dr. Smith, if you can just touch on that just to get information out there to the public.
Chair Garcia, members of the committee, Jennifer Smith, Regional Superintendent for the high school region. So schools identify themselves and come forward with an application to become a NAF school. There's an application process as well as a selection process to have an identified NAF academy or an approved NAF academy. You do need to have the ability to outline a course sequencing that would take students through that career pathway or development throughout their 9th through 12th grade coursework. You have to have a connection with a business partner and also a connection with a higher education institution to be an approved NAF academy.
Thank you for that.
I think you misunderstood the question. I know how the students joined the NAF Academy. The question was, of those 9 schools that you said, along with Bayview, so the 8 additional schools along with Bayview that are already a part of NAF, how was Bayview singled out and picked for this food truck venture when there are schools on the south side that are a part of NAF that you mentioned, like the Marshall and the JMAC, that could benefit from these? How can they expand the food truck venture business to benefit those north side schools, so we're not just having all of these opportunities and resources with our south side schools?
Ms. Bailey, thank you for that question. I think we'll hear from Director O'Halloran, and I see that Ms. Sims is back there. What I'm going to do is make sure we connect with Ms. Sims. Maybe there can be a presentation that can be brought forth specifically around just the initiative.
No, it was just a question of how was Bayview selected out of the 9, and then
For
how
the
can we
specific,
go
sure.
about expanding into the north side? Because she went on into what the NAF is, but we know what it is.
Go ahead.
Chair Garcia, if I may, so my understanding of how this happened is back in the day, there used to be a race car club that was at Bayview High School, and they had a trailer. And when the instructor, the educator that had been the advisor for the race car club left that position, they had the trailer. And at that time, we had the culinary arts program, which, for the record, is, I think, the very best culinary arts program in MPS. And we also have the NAF Academy of Engineering. And so the idea was that the culinary arts students could come up with a business plan, they could come up with the the offerings, they could come up with the type of equipment that they would need in a trailer to establish a food truck. And then the engineering students could be engaged in designing that out. And it has taken on a life of its own because, there was kind of one way, we started down a path and then there has to be some course correction. So it really came from the school. It came because there was a really engaging program and students loved it. They loved the race car program, but it was no longer available. And so it was, the goal was to engage with, items that were still in the school and repurpose them and come up with a new vision for them. And I think, I don't want to belabor the point, but this is a dream that came from students and staff at Bayview High School, and I'm pretty sure it predates me. So if you think this is a special pet project because of Director O'Halloran, please disabuse yourself of that notion. All I am asking for are my colleagues to support the dreams of students and staff at Bayview High School, and this is actually extremely exciting. So, yeah.
All right, thank you for that. All right, so then what is the pleasure of the committee in regards to this item? President Herndon.
I move that we accept the recommendation of administration and Director O'Halloran. And I should share, as I make the motion, that I met these young people a year or two ago during one of those NAF events like we frequently have. And they spoke of doing this exact thing then. It would be nice if some of those young people that were creating mock-ups at that time are around now to see this go to fruition. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Will the secretary please call the roll?
The motion by Director Herndon to approve the request of the administration to pursue the permit and licensure. Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Zombor.
Aye.
And Chair Garcia.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes. The motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item 14, action on recommended FY25 plan of audits and a report on the district risk assessment plan. The recommendation is that the board approve the FY25 annual plan of audits and the district risk assessment as attached.
Thank you. With the Office of Accountability and Efficiency, please present the item.
Thank you, Chair Garcia. Matt Chasen, Office of Accountability and Efficiency. So every year, the Milwaukee Board of School Directors adopts an annual plan of audits, and this identifies for the ensuing fiscal year those audit activities that our internal audit services will conduct. I have Mr. Paul Geib with me this evening, and he'll lead you through a brief discussion of that plan.
Thank you, Mr. Geib.
Good evening, Chair Garcia, members of the committee, Paul Geib, OAE Audit Services. Tonight I am here to present the fiscal 25 annual audit plan and risk assessment and answer any questions you may have on the activities noted in the plan. Audit Services provides performance audit and investigative services, and we follow government auditing standards as well as investigative standards. And as such, we must maintain an independent, objective, and unbiased approach to our work. The objective of internal audit is to assist all the members of the MPS administration and the board in the effective discharge of their responsibilities that assist in improving student outcomes. The reason the school system exists. To do this, we'll provide objective analysis, recommendations, and pertinent audit comments concerning activities reviewed. We are focused on operational areas of higher risk, which include the finance area, human resources, and our operations. In addition to the activities listed in the plan, I will continue to be exercising a supportive role with Mr. Chasen and Mr. Gray with the district's corrective action plan. The annual audit plan includes continuing audits as well as new audit activities. These activities include the completion of the accounts payable audit and the student expulsion audit. New activities include an MPS fleet services review, human resources foreign country recruitment efforts, and a review of FMS billing and AIM systems controls regarding construction projects. I'm prepared to answer any questions the committee may have on this item.
Thank you. Do we have any committee members that want to make comments or ask questions? No? All right, we do have some members of the public. We'll start off with Ms. Angela Harris.
Angela Harris, Harris. I just want to simply state again for the record that the Equity Coalition's demands include the district conduct an equity audit conducted by an external auditor who has demonstrated experience in supporting large education systems, which have been miseducating, neglecting, and criminalizing Black, Brown, and Indigenous students since June 19, 1865. This outside equity audit will include recommendations on district structural reorganization and changes to funding distribution across all parts of the district. These results will be published publicly and shared with the Community Oversight Committee. I would ask that the board and the Office of Accountability and Efficiency include in the new audits an equity audit, please. In order to address all of the structural inequities that exist in our district, we need to figure out what they are and where they exist. And Mr. Geib, you said in your testimony that the purpose of these audits is to address student academics. And if we aren't looking at equity, if we aren't looking at the opportunities that are lacking across our district for our students, we will never be able to adequately address them. You all, now is the time for us to think about how we can create an equitable education experience for all students across Milwaukee Public Schools. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Ms. Bailey. The next on deck is Mr. Jamel Harris.
Deshaunda Bailey, Bailey, Bailey.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Geib. Sorry if I say it wrong. And also, good evening, Matt. Matt, it's been a pleasure to have you play both sides because that's really how we got here, with you wanting to be transparent in a sense and then
Bailey,
running, hiding, tucking
remember
your
to
tail.
address the chair.
Yes. Since we're on the topic of auditing, can we be transparent with our audits? And again, piggyback on what Ms. Harris has demanded with an external audit, because we've already noticed that with your yearly audits that are already happening, you say these things happen every year. Well, here we are with DPI saying that there are millions of dollars missing because your audit just didn't suffice. We can't keep moving on in the same direction with your internal audits that continue to hide disparities and inequities. We cannot continue to move forward that way. We need an external audit. We need an external board member community accountability team to hold you all accountable, because there's no reason why individual members of the audience here who are all coming up as either teachers that former, past, or present that work for you all, graduates of MPS, people who take pride and believe in MPS, because again, we are a product of MPS when it works. You guys have to meet us halfway. You have to provide us with the opportunity to be transparent, fair, and see what's really happening here. Because too many times have you all audited yourselves or kept things internal, and we're at a chaos we are at now. So we have to fix it. And I'm sorry, with all due respect, Mr. Geib, you just won't suffice. I'm sorry. And those other internal members won't suffice. We need outside sources brought in because there's too much being hidden already.
Thank you. Mr. Harris.
Jamel Harris, Harris. Since we're on the subject of audits, I think it would be important right now for this board and this administration and the Office of Accountability to kind of really take a look at practices that MPS has used now for years and decades. When we look at the recent reports from not only DPI, but the different news investigations and other things that have happened over the last few months here, we see that what the administration has offered to our community, their best, is not good enough anymore. Mediocrity will not suffice for our community anymore. So I would implore the board to push back against the administration in regards to audits and normal practices around those things, because we all seen the news stories and we all understand why the man is sitting in the corner, because there was deep levels of failure throughout the structure of MPS. What I'm basically saying is, we can't trust what you did yesterday to go forward into tomorrow. So we need to analyze what these practices look like, what they mean, and what they have not done for our community. Because like I have said here before, and other people have said tonight in other meetings here, the numbers, the measurables that all of these things are connected to suck. They're horrible. And so to think that we can continue down the path of business as usual with something as critical as our audit policies and procedures, these things need to be stripped down and rebuilt in a way that they are going to work for everyone in MPS. Because to hear that there was 60% of a department as critical as finance missing shows that the lack of leadership in MPS cannot be overstated at this point. For anyone to think that that was okay for any period of time will not allow our district to move forward. So I would ask you all to push back against this moment right now where they want to continue business as usual with our audit policies and procedures. And let's rewrite and retool and rethink what that can look like for our community. Not the rethinking that Bob and the rest of you white people think for our community with the white savior BS. Rethink what our community actually needs. More of the same will not help us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely not. Whatever your audit process was.
We have one more speaker, Mr. Larry Mays.
No more.
All right, Mr. Mays is coming up to the podium.
Best efforts are not good enough. Failure.
Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Mays, M-A-Y-S, first name is Larry. So, couple questions. The audit itself, when we speak on that audit, is that audit done at the same time every year? Second part of that question is, the audit itself, is that public record that you have to request that?
It should not.
The third question is there somewhere on the MPS website where anyone can find out what every person's role is that's on this board?
Thank you for that. All right, do we have any members of the committee that wish to make comments or ask questions? Director Leonard.
So, first of all, I don't mind if we try to answer some of those questions, because I have some of the same questions, to be honest with you, sorry. But I also just want to point some things out that I need to have some answers to. So on the 5th bullet point down, it talks about having written standard operating procedures. When can we have that? When can we have that actually all put together for us?
Mr. Garb?
Chair Garcia, Director Leonard, members of the committee, Paul Geib, Audit Services. So the risk assessment was sent out across all of the operational areas, and this has been a concern over the last several years, that we continue to bring forward the fact that there are operational areas that do not have written standard operating procedures. We've provided that information to the administration and to the board in which to act upon. And if I could also make one more clarification here with regard to the audit. So we're talking about two different things: the external audit that's performed by Baker Tilly and internal audit activities.
And I'm speaking on both.
And so with regard to the external audit, those audits are publicly available. There is no public records request needed to review those. In addition, audits that we have performed, whether it be in the accounts payable area, whether it be with regard to the TABS program, those are all publicly available audits. We do, in terms of what we do with regard to the external audit, we do provide our external auditors with the results of our audits. which are put into their management letter, which goes to the board and the administration. So we do point out where we've had deficiencies, where we've had issues with internal controls. So so if I could just clarify one more point here, and that is that the external audit process is a process that normally begins around July and would conclude by December in theory, because the DPI requires that we provide our basic financial statements to them by January 1. When that does not occur, then and the situation we're in right now is the situation we're in right now is one in which we have a corrective action plan now that's being implemented to address. But again, this annual audit plan of activities is looking at operational areas that our external auditor does not look at. They are simply charged with taking a look at internal controls around basic financial statement audits, federal and state awards, and they do also issue 2 supplemental pension audits, membership audit, and parental consent. But they do not look into the specific operational areas that we look into in order to ensure that our board is informed and the administration is informed and they take the actions they need to take. As an audit function, we point these out and then we will come back and follow up to see if these recommendations are being implemented. If they're not being implemented, we send out another audit report that notes that. I hope I've answered your questions.
The only part that I just need some clarification on, when you said you send it out, who are you sending that out to?
So the audits that we issue are sent to the board and the administration, and they're publicly available on our website. There's no public records request.
And what's your website?
So if you go to the, and I don't know if I can pull that up right now. I'd be happy to do it. It's 2 clicks to get there.
You can just tell me. I'm savvy enough.
Oh, you can? Thank you, Paul Guy.
Madam Chair, Ms. Farrow is pulling it up on the website.
Thank you. Can you do a narrative while we're doing this? Thank you.
If you go under the district tab.
Wow, things you can actually navigate to, you're willing to navigate to. But things that you know are not accessible, you move right along in this meeting. Because we've asked 3 times tonight to show us certain places to navigate.
Madam Chair, it's under the districts tab, under the Office of Accountability's webpage. On the right-hand side, there is an option to click for audit reports.
Thank you for that. All right. Thank you, Mr. Mays. All right, and
Just
Director Leonard, we're still with
more,
you.
so we're not, I'm still.
Yep.
So, and I lost my train of thought, so I apologize. This is what happens when you get older, I guess, but, so we were talking about the SOPs and not having them. So I need to put something together, you know, as a board, we need to make sure we start tightening these down. So that can't be accepted anymore. So I actually probably have to work with you, Ms. Koala, and actually sit down and actually put something together that changes the policy or puts teeth into the policy so that we get that information on time. I need to also ask, and this, you may not be able to answer this, okay, but the governor has proposed those 2 different audits, academic and organizational. Any way that you can realize how that would help us in this process?
Right, Office of Accountability and Efficiency. Mr. Geib.
Chair Garcia, Director Leonard, members of the committee, Paul Geib, Audit Services. I'd welcome any outside audits that they would offer up. We have worked. We have worked with other external parties to audit operations when ARA funding was provided to us in 2009. Our auditors came in, we partnered with them and showed them where we had some deficiencies that got into their report. The Council of Great City Schools has done several audits of our human resources area. We have tried to follow up to see what those recommendations have been, whether they've been implemented or not. But any outside entity that wishes to come in here, I'd be happy to cooperate with them and help them.
All right, thank you.
Any follow-up?
No, we're good. We're good. Thank you.
All right. All right, is there any other members of the committee that have questions? Director
I got
Zambor.
one more quick public question. It's really quick. Without District 4.
You want to just speak right now?
Yeah,
All
Bailey,
right. Is it
DeShonda.
okay if we just go to the speaker? All right, Ms. Bailey, go ahead and
With
just,
District 4, at least for the last 30 days not having representation, how is that district adequately represented in anything that takes place with this board with no representation? How are their community members and parents involved if there is no one to even represent them at meetings for the last month? How? Can we please address that without moving on to a roll call or anything? Because Zomberg, you're not even paying attention to the people right now. You look disgusted, like you ready to leave. I'm sorry, Director Garcia.
Yes, remember to
We
address
should
me.
really have people sitting on this board that truly have the heart to be here. She looked disgusted, like she don't even want to be here tonight. Why? You're sitting here with your face in Herndon, like she can save you. We just need to know, like, where's Leonard is telling you there's too many vacancies, too many disparities, too much going on. What are we going to do to address it? Especially when you don't even have a whole district having representation. How is that community involved? How is this transparency? How are we moving along for the last month with no District 4 representation? You're just going to make those choices for that district? How are you communicating with the community when you say the community have an input? How are the people in District 4 being communicated to when they don't have a district leader right now? And then you guys are slapping us in the face when we ask simple questions tonight, like show us how to navigate through your website, when Paul was the first one to take initiative because he know the information he shared is actually there. So stop freaking lying. Stop trying to move on business as usual. And our interim superintendent, please provide some type of transparency. Don't just sit there to fill a seat, sir. Please. Because it's not going to work. We're going to need to hear from you, too, because, again, these board members answer to you, and it's hard to hear Mr. Paul say that the administration have known about these things, and then you guys as a board just let the administration not communicate and be transparent. So are you just going to continue to let that happen?
thank you,
Because
Ms. Bailey.
we have no trust in you right now. So can you please address how District 4 is going to be equitably represented in this information, have a fair input with no representation for the last month?
Thank you. Is there,
Data for District 4.
is there any members of the public?
Madam Chair, we had no additional speaker slips. There is also no motion on the floor at this time.
All right, Director Zambor.
Thank you, Chair Garcia. So one, I just wanted to comment, I'm really glad to see the Human Resources Foreign Country Recruitment Audit included in this plan. I think that's something, as board members, we get a lot of questions on. But I also want to address the issue, when I was a new board member, I just want to be really transparent about how new board members kind of interact with the internal audit plan. Like, we, as new,
we don't care what you did as a new
when I was a new board member, Mr. Geib reached out to me one-on-one because it wasn't a part of my board orientation. And so I think with the shift to moving internal audit under OAE, I think that's going to give the board greater access to internal audit. And I think
the office accountability.
I also,
is
just
failure
so we
right
don't
now.
have dead air, I also want to say, I think that shift helped us in this moment to be able to get the corrective action plan, because OAE and the internal audit department have been able to move quickly. And so I just want, I just want to raise that as like the board has taken action to move that so we can have greater transparency, because I agree, we don't want internal audit reports to come to the board and then we don't get to discuss them. They do need to come forward to AFP, and that's something that this board has been asking for, and I think we've seen you at more meetings more recently. And so I think that's important for the public to know, and I just want to state that. Thank you.
Thank you.
No,
right,
thank you,
so then-
for keeping everything internal.
What is the pleasure of the committee in respect to this item?
Madam Chair, we got a speaker slip. I don't know what the item is. There's no item number.
Is it for this item?
Dr. Reeves is the speaker.
Any kids in the district?
All right, Dr. Reeves,
What's the last school you visited, Tom Moore? What's that data look like?
please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Absolutely. My name is Dr. Shondolyn, Shandowlyn, Reeves, Reaves. I am a graduate of Custer High School. I am a former paraprofessional for NPS, a former teacher, a former principal, assistant principal, and central office administrator. I also was responsible for the teacher education, professional development, and licensing team at DPI, and I served as a senior member of Governor Evers' leadership team. What I find very astounding is that as this individual talks about his position, in 1990, the state legislature put the business office under the superintendent. The response of this board in 2010 was to create a board-appointed person over the Office of Accountability and Efficiency. That person reports to the board. You don't report to the superintendent, my dear heart. So whatever issues you had with administration, you should have reported to the board. You should have went to Dr. Posley, because as a board-appointed person, there are board governance rules. I think it's 3.01. You can check if you want to, BG 3.01, that clearly articulates what the job of the senior director of OAE is. And we are negligent. Notice I said we are negligent as a community to our children, to our parents, to our teachers, and our taxpayers, because you all did not hold your board-appointed person accountable. This person did not have to apply for, interview, or anything. This is a person you chose, and he sat back, and he has not done his audits like he's supposed to. If you look at administrative standards, if you look at board rules, it's very clear what he was supposed to do. So I'm very disturbed when I hear in the audience that he wants to put this on an administration that's not here, because he never reported to administration. Dr. Posley could not step over his power, or even you, dear sir. You cannot step over and tell him what to do, because he's equal to the superintendent. If you look at the chain of command, it's the citizens, it's the board, then it's the superintendent, the person over board governors, and him, and all of you are equal. So Dr. Posey couldn't come and correct him. He couldn't come and tell him to do the audit. You were responsible for doing it. And when you refer to that website, I perused it. It's very clear. It's very clear what he was supposed to do. And he's not by himself. He has a whole team of people that are supposed to help them. 4 people at least that I can count of on the board. So to continue to have these conversations about blaming administration for something that in our state statutes and in our board governance rules, your person you appointed did not do his job. And I'm just wondering, where's the uproar about that? Because I remember I sat here and Dr. Posley was crucified, and no one ever bothered to say that was not his job to do the audit. That is not his job to make sure that our kids' lunches are well. That is not his job. That is the senior director. So let's get it right, and let's do it right. I want all of you to succeed, because if this board fails, if our superintendent fails, if our teachers fail, our students fail, our city fails, our businesses fail. It's time out for all of this bull. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Reeves. All right. Is there any further discussion? Mr. Gabe?
Chair Garcia, members of the committee, Paul Geib, OA Audit Services. The organizational structure of the district includes the superintendent, the Office of Accountability and Efficiency, and the Office of Board Governance. I report to the board. And I have to report to the board because I follow government auditing standards that require that level of independence. I am not a senior director. I'm not sure what the reference is to. I am the audit manager. In 2010, I was the audit manager. I reported to the board through the Office of Board Governance. Now I report to the board through the Office of Accountability and Efficiency. In order to maintain independence, I can't report to the administration because the administration would be able to direct my work away. That's why I report to the board.
Thank you for that clarification.
So it's the board
All right.
members.
What is the pleasure of the committee in response to this item?
Garcia.
Director Zambor.
I move approval of, I want to pull it up.
Speak up, we can't hear you, Missy.
I move approval of the action on the recommended fiscal year 25 plan of audit.
Is there further discussion?
Your white mediocrity will not do any longer.
All right.
It hasn't worked. We don't want it.
One more speaker?
No more of the same.
Madam Chair, the motion by Director Zambor is to approve the recommendations of the Office of Accountability and Efficiency. Director Herndon.
No.
Aye. Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Zambor.
Aye.
And Chair Garcia.
Aye.
4 ayes, the motion passes.
More the same. More the same. It's
All right, Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item 15, action on a request for approval of a job description for Chief Auditor. The recommendation is that the board approve the attached job description for the Chief Auditor.
All right, with the Office of Accountability and Efficiency, please present the item.
Thank you, Chair Garcia. Matt Chasen, Office of Accountability and Efficiency. So as the board moved the internal audit services area underneath the OAE in January of this year, we undertook a review to make sure that there were best practices related to the internal audit function. One of the things that we identified was that one of the positions that had been held in there for decades within the area but was eliminated in a budget amendment about 10 years ago was a chief auditor position. This is a best practice under the Council of Great City Schools. Having the elevation of a chief auditor that reports administratively to the OAE, but functionally directly to the board, maintains the level of independence that assures both the board and the public that the appropriate oversight is taking place. The corrective action plan by DPI also notes that this is one of our activities in furtherance of establishing an audit committee that would be made up of a board member and also external professionals that can provide additional oversight as a direct report to the board. With that, I am happy to answer any questions you might have. Oh, I'm sorry, one other detail. I know that the title is chief, and that may lead others to believe that that is in fact in the same pay scale, at the same height as other chiefs in the organization. That level is an 18, this would be a level 14. I just want to make that clear because there could be ambiguity based on that title. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. Do we have committee members that wish to make any comments or ask questions? No? All right, we do have 3 speakers. I'm going to call Ms. Angela Harris. And the next on deck is Ms. Angela Lucas-Foley.
Chair Garcia, can we have like a dialogue and not move along? Okay, we hear you and just, let's take a vote. Like actually have some dialogue. That's what conversations are.
So why y'all doing
Both
this? Don't
parties
forget,
talking.
they are collecting signatures for them recalls.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, Ms. Harris, just state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Angela Harris, Harris. Before I start with my comments, I just want to state for the record how thoroughly inappropriate I believe that it is that we do a land acknowledgement at the beginning of every school board meeting, but we have chiefs as a position in our district. Ridiculous. Okay, but back to my comments about the auditor. It's not a good idea to be posting a new job description when the community does not have a full picture of the breakdown, negligence, and perhaps the malfeasance between the Office of Accountability and Efficiency, which oversees our audit processes, as we learned on the last agenda item, and the board governance. And it's clear, like based upon just what was all discussed in the last agenda item, that moving forward with a chief auditor position might not be in the best interest of the Office of Accountability and Efficiency at this present moment. Instead, the board should probably be asking for additional outside auditors to come in and evaluate what happened. How did the breakdown occur? As a constituent, I really would like to understand, how did the breakdown occur between the Office of Accountability and Efficiency and the board? You all report directly to them, so I'm very confused as to where the breakdown in the communication occurred, and I don't think hiring a chief or a director of that department is going to address that problem. I think that the last thing that we need is another director level position added to a system that loves directors. We have a lot of directors and hiding things. Instead, the Equity Coalition is asking that the MPS School Board fund a continued contract with Pacific Education Group for systemic equity transformation work, including an outside equity audit. And yes, it is something they specialize in. Additionally, the Equity Coalition is asking for an independent audit of the Office of Accountability and Efficiency and the Office of Board Governance, giving the level of secrets and this perpetuation of business as usual that hamstrings the communication between you all and is critical to provide information to us as the constituents, to our students and our staff, and the district administration. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Angela Lucas Foley, followed by Mr. Larry Mays.
Angela Lucas Foley, Lucasfoley. Good evening again, Interim Superintendent Galvan, Chair Garcia, President Herndon, and board directors. I spent a good while in the proposed budget at the time it's now passed. I believe it was over 400 pages. Director level positions were hidden, placed. When I added up the annual salaries of now the funded and past budget, it's $11.89 million of director level positions, 89 director level positions. My question really is, do we need another? My question also is, isn't this under the purview of Mr. Matt Chasen? Instead of funding another director level position, consider funding an equity audit. Milwaukee Public Schools has been contracting with Pacific Education Group. The current contract ends on September 30th of this year. The last time the contract was renewed, it was renewed for $273,000. I said thousand, 6 numbers. Additionally, as was also asked for, the audit should include really looking at the Office of Accountability and Efficiency, the Office of Board Governance, the high-level superintendent offices, and also the power and influence of the Milwaukee Teachers Education Association. My fear is the trust that the elected officials have or had was abused by a structure that the directors couldn't or didn't or weren't allowed to understand. I don't think any of us are innocent here, myself included. But again, we are at a point of reckoning. And I think we have an opportunity to do and put our best foot forward. Sometimes when it gets crazy messy, the most beautiful things happen. But we have to acknowledge and really take a good look at what has went wrong and how we can do better. We have nothing to lose. Well, there's that. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Larry Mays? you are up, and then followed by Ms. Bailey.
All right, so
Yes, say your name and spell your last name for the record.
Last name is Mays, first name is Larry. Just so we're clear, I'm a MPS graduate. I own rental property, so I'm being taxed. The bottom line is, a chief auditor, what's the point? At this point, the governor already issued an audit. You're gonna just waste some more money again. At the end of the day, I have a 10-year financial background, okay? So my observation, and I haven't even done an audit for you, and I haven't even pulled the records yet, because I am going to, trust me. So at the end of the day, the chief auditor is not going to do anything. The people that are accountable is everybody up here that got those emails from Paul. Once you come to a clear understanding of that and take ownership of where and who dropped the ball. I've heard a couple of you on the radio. I'm not going to say names. The radio station didn't even take calls, because if so, you would have heard from me. I'll say this. One of the people on the radio didn't even want to own up to anything. The only thing I heard is the same thing I'm hearing today. Oh, let's look at the silver lining. Let's move forward. You can't move forward without understanding the issues, accountability, and who didn't do shit. Because at the end of the day, everybody can sit up here, you got appointed, and you've been doing this and doing that. Either way, if you get emails, if you get an action plan, and you half-ass read it, or you don't read it, you're still accountable, period. Nobody wants to own up to that, but trust me, it's a lot of smart people watching. I've never been to one of these meetings ever, but trust me, you will see me here.
Thank you, Mr. Mays. All right, Ms. Bailey?
Deshonda Bailey, last name Bailey.
Thank you.
Just had a few questions in regards to creating this new job description for chief auditor and creating this new position. How is this person going to be appointed? Will it be, again, a board-appointed chief auditor? When will the public have any type of say-so in this process? How is this process to happen? Are we just going to move business along as usual and appoint someone? That's not going to work. What is the point of having this chief auditor come in if that position was taken away before? We can already see that you guys are not competent enough to balance a budget. You are not competent enough to have people in position to actually do the job. Because how can we overlook that we conveniently allowed a board member to resign after this shit show happens, and they were in one of the highest positions in finance? How can we allow that to happen? Allowing these scapegoat routines is not okay, and then we're just going to move on and say, okay, we'll have a chief auditor that's going to be internal as well? No. When will you guys open up the floor to say, you know what, we have some concerned citizens who I'm sure, even with the Black Caucus organization, Angela and her husband have been doing their due diligence, pulling the budget apart. Why not say, hey, is there anyone in your organization that wants to, because we know you're particular about where you want your funds to go. You'll never fund anything that's gonna actually provide useful services to our community. But how about you ask if there are any community volunteers that would like to look through and audit some things? Because I'm telling you, Deshonda Bailey would love to audit. I would love to look through, and I have the credentials to do so, because, I mean, you guys know, how many times was I overlooked in the finance department, even though you guys said I tested at a certain level? So how about you open up the floor, allow community members to do an external audit alongside the professionals we bring in, because we all know that more than one set of eyes can always pick apart and find errors, because there's a lot here. There's beyond the feds. I mean, the feds are already on the way. Criminal charges are already on the way for some of your behaviors. So before we move on with business as usual, how about you allow the community to have an equal and equitable say-so in what happens here? Because again, I raised the question that can you please answer it? After you answer to the board, Paul, who does the board answer to? Who does the board, the Office of Efficiency, who do you all answer to? According to the organizational structure that Paul brought into this meeting. He raised it. You brought in organizational structure. So for transparency, can you please address who you all answer to? Because again, when the people you are supposed to answer to are not satisfied, you don't give a shit. You still move right along, and that's not how this is supposed to work. Because if you actually did your job and included those Milwaukee citizens like in these newscasts, and you were transparent about all of these audits and say, hey, this is what our audit brought out. If you shared that on the news, then maybe you'll have a packed house every meeting and you will see that the community don't agree with your shit show, okay? So I'm just asking that you address the public and you be transparent and open it up for other auditors to come in, both professional and community volunteers that can go ahead and have some accountability for you all, because we know when you keep it internal, you're just going to bring in one of your friends again who's going to hide everything.
Thank you, Ms. Bailey.
Nepotism is real, remember that.
All right. Is there any questions from committee members?
Who does the board
All right.
answer to, Garcia?
Is there any further discussion? 1 second. Ms. Bailey.
Organizational structure. Who does the board answer to?
All right. What is the pleasure of the committee in respect to this item?
Garcia, are you not going to answer it?
We answer to the public.
Oh, okay. So why don't you answer to the public?
Just one question.
Right. One question from
So-
Director Leonard.
Okay, when I read that cap and the expectations, the chief auditor is actually being basically reinstated according to them. So that is, to me, that sounds like we're not being given a ton of option here. We either do that or what happens then?
Mr. Jason?
Chair Garcia, Matt Chasen, Office of Accountability and Efficiency. So the narrative that has been provided by DPI is they expect adherence and observance of the corrective action plan, subject to them withholding payments based on our satisfaction of that plan.
Oh, you trying to move along so you can get that July payment?
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. Director Leonard, do you also have a motion? No? No? All right. Director Zambor.
I move approval of the recommendation for the job description for chief auditor.
How would that be appointed?
All right, will the secretary please call the roll?
On the motion by Director Zomber to approve the recommendation of the Office of Accountability and Efficiency, Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Zomber.
Aye.
Chair Garcia.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes, the motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Next item, please.
The next item is item 16, a report with possible action on the MPS school nutrition program. This is an informational item, and although it has been noticed for possible action, no action is required.
Would the administration please present the item?
Chair Garcia, members of the committee, Eduardo Galvan, Acting Superintendent. I have here with me today Mr. Abdullah, Director of School Nutrition, to present this report and address any questions you may have. Thank you, Mr. Abdullah.
Thank you, Mr. Galvan. Chair Garcia, members of the committee, Omar Abdullah, School Nutrition Services. Today, I'm making a presentation about our nutrition operations for the 23-24 school year. And the information that we'll share is as of end of May 2024. This slide shows the information regarding the meal count, meals that we serve during the 2023-24 school year. For the summer program, we served about 197,000 meals. And then during the school year, we served a total of 12.5 million meals this school year, which is an increase of 1.1 million meals compared to the same time period last school year. So this shows that, we are, working really hard and making progress that is expected of us. Next slide, we are presenting the information regarding our fresh fruit and vegetable program. We proudly participate in the USDA fresh fruit and vegetable program. During the 23-24 school year, we had 74 schools that received this grant for a total of $1.8 million. And additionally, we have again completed the grant application for next school year. On the next slide, we have been working on the Food Justice Task Force. We are collaboratively working with the student groups like Youth Empowered in the Struggle, commonly known as YES Group, and Milwaukee Community Schools partnerships to continuously improve the food quality. During the 23-24 school year, we added more choices, including a hot vegetarian option at all of our schools, elementary and high schools. And lastly, our focus for next school year will continue to engage students and do more food taste testing so that our menus can be developed around the feedback we receive from the students. Next slide presents the information about the production kitchen. We have been working for the last 3 years to move away from pre-packed meals to production kitchens. This slide shows at the end of 22-23 school years, we had 31 production kitchens, and now currently, as we ended the 23-24 school year, we had 55 production kitchens. And we hope to have additional 10 schools to be a production kitchen at the start of 24-25 school year.
But you're cutting kitchen staff. How does that make sense with more kitchens?
And next slide presents information about the equipment replacement project that is going on right now. We are almost 90% complete as I speak, and our contractor is expected to finish this project middle of July or definitely by the end of July. And this project, we are very hopeful that it will make a big contribution next school year. There were approximately 350 pieces of equipment that were replaced. And last piece of information that I have with regards to nutrition services staffing, at the end of May, we had 109 vacancies. As a reference point, I want to mention that we started the school year with 181 vacancies. So now we are at 109. But within last week, we are very regularly working with HR to recruit more candidates. So we have recommended approximately 20 names for our manager positions within last week. And I know we do have job fairs coming up in July and August. which we are planning to be part of. So we are very hopeful as we start the next school year, we will be in a good place staffing-wise as well. So that concludes my presentation and information, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for that. Do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? Director Leonard.
So I was at the last meeting for the YES and the community partnership. Ms. Garrett was there. It actually was rather productive. I will say this, and I've been pretty open about it. The quality of the food definitely improves when you're doing it out of a kitchen. I still have issues with the taste of the food. And I think that we talked about that, and I'm going to be very just bold about the conversations we had. We're talking about what we can do to improve the taste of the food. But Omar, you also said that we had another opportunity for a grant, and I don't think you mentioned that tonight. So that's one thing that I would ask you to expound on. And also, when it comes to the teaching kitchens, what are you using right now for teaching kitchens? Are we using the high schools, or how is that working?
Administration?
Chair Garcia, Director Leonard, and members of the committee, Umar Abdullah, School Nutrition Services. First of all, with regards to USDA grant, there is a grant for $250,000 that is an initiative that USDA has launched involving 4 states, Indiana, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Illinois. And our community organization named Food Right, they have submitted the application for the Wisconsin grants, and MPS has supported them. They have other groups that are going to be part of that grant as well. And the grant is about innovation in school food, school nutrition. So we hope to hear the decision at the end of this month. If Food Right is chosen and receive that grant, they will work with MPS as well as other community members. There are people from the supply chain side of the operations as well. So they will have local, food producers that would be part of that process, as well as there is expectation to have students and families involvement in that grant as well. So based on the results, and if Wisconsin receives that grant, it will be for multiple years, $250,000 each year. Those funds would not come to MPS because Food Right is the main applicant for that. However, they work collaboratively, and the goal is to improve and innovate school nutrition and school food.
Any follow-up, Director Leonard?
Just the teaching kitchens. So are we using the high schools right now to do that? Just needed clarity on that.
Mr. Abdullah?
Sure. Chair Garcia, Director Leonard, members of the committee, Umar Abdullah, School Nutrition Services. Right now, we do operate, central kitchens, and we also have high schools with bigger kitchen size and facilities. So we utilize those kitchens for our training needs right now.
And then out of curiosity, it makes sense to use those kitchens because they're in different regions. So I'm sort of giving you a softball question here, but I just want to get some clarity before, and I won't ask any more questions after this. But so anyway, for the sake of convenience for both staffing and for serving, because it's goes directly to students, the high school operations, do you feel that works as a better vehicle of service for our teaching kitchens?
Mr. Abdullah.
Chair Garcia, Director Leonard, members of the committee, Umar Abdullah, School Nutrition Services. That is correct, Director Leonard. As you know, we have schools throughout the district, throughout the city. It would make more sense to have regional kitchens. All say 4 different areas in the entire district. That will be definitely more convenient for our kitchen staff to go to when we schedule trainings and stuff like that. So,
who's the hurdle in the way of making
Any
expanding on that?
follow-up, Director Leonard?
Thank you, and we're going to make sure we look at why that is not the case. I know we are doing it. I want to make sure that we make it work the best way it can. So I'll leave it at that. I need a little bit more information before I can ask another set of questions, but thank you.
All right. Is there any other members of the committee? President Herndon.
Yes, Mr. Abdullah, I'd like to know if the children are more receptive to the new foods you've added this year, because in the past, every year, it was a problem, and we were always told that it was because this is the food that's provided by the USDA under the program that we are enlisted in or enrolled in for free lunches.
Mr. Abdullah.
Chair Garcia, Director Herndon, members of the committee, Umar Abdullah, School Nutrition Services. Definitely, the menu improvement and changes to the menu, this is an ongoing process. Definitely, we utilize student taste testing as a basis to add menu items this year. We plan on doing that, and we hope to do that more regularly on a monthly basis to go to all school levels, elementary, middle, and high schools, and get direct feedback from our students, what items they like, what they don't like, and then that's our plan and goal to continue to move forward as we are making changes and improvements to the menus.
Thank you. All right. We do have some members of the public that wish to make comments. I'm going to call Mr. Jamel Harris to the podium.
Jamel Harris, Harris, District 4, heavy taxation, no representation still. A point of information for the secretary, board clerk, excuse me. Can we find out what year the resolution was passed under Larry Miller's board presidency to actually look at nutrition in MPS? Because I think we'll find that this conversation has been rolling on for quite a few years. We're talking probably 2017, 18, somewhere in that range. And again, your best efforts have not been good enough. We've heard this conversation. We've heard the smoke and mirrors. We've seen the can get kicked down the road. That's why we're here talking about how horrible the food is. I challenge each and every board member and Mr. Acting Superintendent this September, go to your favorite local MPS school. Go have lunch. Have 4 of them throughout the month of September. And I want you, Mr. Abdullah, to come back to this board and you tell them after eating 4 of those meals that our kids are subject to day in and day out, that that is good enough. I challenge all of you. I challenge all of you because I have children that go to school in this district and the food is downright horrible. They say it's undercooked, sometimes spoiled, sometimes overcooked. Sometimes it's not even what they were told they were going to get. They've been given breadsticks and milk some days because the food didn't arrive or it was ruined. This is what our children are dealing with on the ground. So to sit here and tell somebody you're going to have a child do a taste test, I'm here to tell you the food tastes like shit. We don't need any more tests. We don't need any more conversations. We don't need any more task force and people having conversations. Do something. Do something. What he just laid out is outsourcing. That's what Food Right is. That's what all of these plans and programs are. It's outsourcing because they can't meet the level of standard that we need in our community. That's why. This board, these administrators that we have that have been around for all of these years since that resolution was passed, their best efforts have not been good enough to move this work forward. What is recruitment like for MPS as a whole for all of these open positions? Why is it that MPS doesn't have at least 2 job fairs a month in this building with on-the-spot interviews like many other industries and business around us do? Maybe, just maybe, if we put forth a little bit more effort and stop talking and using buzzwords and having conversations with handpicked individuals around us, step outside of your fucking bubbles and talk to more people. You may learn something. You just might. If you pop your little green bubbles and actually talk to more people. There's thousands of people that this district serves that will stand here and say exactly what I just said on behalf of their children. Because again, my children go to school in this district.
Thank you.
My kids are being oppressed by this district now through nutrition. Not only do we get inadequate education, our kids get slop for meals. And we say we're doing great. We served more slop last year than we did the year before. You're not doing great, sir. You're not. You're not. And since they won't tell you, I will. You're not. Your best effort is not good enough. And just like they just laid out, it's because we don't have any standard operating procedures. I've worked in the chemical industry for almost 20 years. There's a term, ISO. It has many different levels, many different ways that it operates. But you know what that flag means when you see it outside all those fancy buildings all around our community? That means those people do what they say and say what they do. And it's all in black and white, and anybody that walks in that building can do it.
Thank you,
We
Mr.
have
Harris.
no standards. There is no floor. There is no threshold for how much bullshit we'll take. So at what point do we reimagine, rethink, and redesign this system that has done nothing for our community time and time again?
Thank you.
Disrespectfully.
Um,
I'm not here to play
We
nice
do have
because
Ms. Bailey.
more shit this year than we did last year.
Ms. Bailey, if you can make your way to the podium.
Congratulations, you're a shit show.
Right there, making their way to the podium. All right, make sure you say your names and spell your last name for the record.
Tashonda Bailey, Bailey. Mr. Abdullah, thank you for coming and sharing that information with us. Is it possible for you to pull up the screen that you had with the food meal counts, just so we can have some numbers to reference? Your little slideshow was cute, but are you gonna talk about how many of those dollars were actually wasted? Do you guys ever, any of you board members ever go into your schools and actually poll the students, poll the teachers, poll the parents, do a survey on how they felt about the school lunch, the school nutrition? Because you're saying all of these things you are presenting, again, you say you keep the students and community members at the forefront and they have an input. What input? What? Because for years, parents and community advocates have come in here about the school lunch program alone, and no one has been satisfied. No one. You spend more dollars. You showed us on your little cute slideshow where, yeah, you're allocating more dollars, but where are those dollars going? Those students literally throw the shit in the garbage. So you're just wasting money. No one's enjoying school lunch, and you wonder why the behavior problems exist. Our kids are hungry, starving all day. What are you going to do to actually make it better? What input will our community have on moving forward? Because you heard from Mr. Harris right before me where he has kids in the district and I have one child. And again, it's not good enough. And these are your best efforts you put forth, and you wanted to get commended on your little presentation, but the math ain't math and the numbers don't make sense. So again, with you cutting 300 positions and showing how many vacancies we have, How is that going to balance out? Can we get some transparency and truth here? How many of those lunches were actually wasted? Breakfast is wasted. Dollars wasted on a nutrition program that's not nutritional. What health benefits are our kids receiving from the things you always are serving? And again, how many schools have functioning kitchens that have staff cooking fresh food daily? I'm not talking about the packages you get, the heat and serve, where you could just put in the oven, reheat, and have one little staff person say, here you go. That's not going to suffice because the food is horrible. When are we going to go back to MPS that worked? You know, when we had real kitchen staff actually cooking meals on a daily, serving hot, fresh food. When will we go back to that? Because this presentation that you propose, is that the same heat and pack lunch services that you plan on moving forward with? What changes are going to be made to the current nutrition program where our dollars aren't going to be wasted, where the food isn't going to go into the garbage, but the kids who you want to taste test these products will actually benefit from them on a daily basis? Can you please address and tell us what changes to the current program will be made so that we're not continuing to waste dollars where they don't need to be wasted? Because we've been advocating for the change in this nutrition program for years.
Thank you, Ms. Bailey.
Do any of our members of the board, can you do your little roll call? Zomberg, who's our current vendor? Who's our food vendor? Where's our food coming from?
Thank you, Ms. Bailey.
At least the schools in your district, what vendor is being used for the nutrition program? Have you ever sat in a school and had lunch, Ms. Zomberg? Ms. Herndon, have any of you on the board sat and had lunch? I know you probably have, Mr. Leonard, and you just said it's deplorable, but you have to get your board members to agree.
Thank you, Ms. Bailey. All right. I'm calling Mr. Larry Mace.
Larry Mays, last name is M-A-Y-S.
Thank you.
Garcia, I just want to ask you a question first.
Yes.
When people come up here to this podium and they pose a question, are you guys picking and choosing what you want to answer?
Yes.
Because this is my first time coming and I'm just being observant. That's the first question.
So, Ms. Kovala, if you want to just briefly talk about how this whole thing is set up.
Madam Chair, members of the public, the board routinely takes public comment at the committee level during its deliberation of items. The standard is that the board receives comments and doesn't engage in a back and forth. However, if there are trends in the questions being asked, or if board members have the same questions as members of the public, often the chair will ask the administration, OAE, or the Office of Board Governance to answer questions.
Yes, but Mr. Mays, it is, the structure that we currently have in place here is, I would say, is not very interactive, so there's really no room for dialogue. However, it is up to the chairperson to, welcome questions or open up the floor for folks to directly interact with, questions that are coming from the audience.
This is more of comments, not necessarily questions, then, correct?
Yes.
From the audience.
Yes, and we do welcome any questions that you have. If you can email them, I always tell people, please do that. First of all, it becomes part of public record. Secondly, it is channeled through the correct pathways for us to be able to get those questions to us. And most of us do get back to folks directly.
Madam Chair, I would also add that oftentimes there are questions that the administration, OAE, or OBG need to assemble an answer to that is provided to the board, disseminated to all board members so that all board members have that information in between the committee meeting and the full board.
Absolutely. Does that answer your question, Mr. Mays?
That answers the question, but does that make sense to you?
I mean.
I understood it clearly.
Right.
Does that really make sense, though?
Well, to answer the question in terms of.
I understand it's the current setup, I get that. But your personal opinion.
In my personal opinion, I don't think it welcomes interactive ways of looking at things.
Okay. So then with that being said, is there any checks and balances with vendors? For example, this situation that we're discussing now, is there any checks and balances for the board that actually, which I won't direct the question to Abdullah directly, but
Sure.
you know, I think a important question would be, if he's been sharing this food, whatever you want to call it, how many of you guys have actually dealt with him or come out to his business, have seen the operation, those kind of things when we talk about checks and balances? Because clearly, and this is not to poke the bear, but clearly people are ignoring and not reading emails, obviously. So at some point when you're talking about nutrition, I'm sure you guys have your own personal diets at home, and that should be the top of the list, especially if we're going to have dialogue about it today. How many people in 7 years, however long this has been going on, have we actually come out and said, what's going on? How's it going? Let's see what the operation is. Let's see how things are going. If someone has to tell board that, the president, the director, if someone has to sit here and suggest that, everybody probably is in the wrong position today.
Thank you for that, Mr. Mays. All right, the last speaker for the day, Ms. Angela Harris.
Angela Harris, Harris. So yes, we do have children that attend Milwaukee Public Schools. My daughter actually said the next time they talk about nutrition, Mom, I want to go to the school board meeting because I want to talk to them about lunch. But instead she decided to go swimming. So she wanted to ask she asked me to ask you all, how do you know they like the lunches? How do you know they like the lunches? So when y'all looked at this report, did you feel like you were really informed about what's going on with the nutrition in the district? Right, what I saw was a bunch of numbers, how many lunches you served, and to Ms. Bailey's point, the lunches of numbers served do not equal the number of lunches that are often thrown in the garbage. I think the reality, what we really need to talk about here is a lot of us that educate students on the north side of Milwaukee, educate them in food deserts, where they do not have access to fresh fruit and vegetables. I actually did a food drive in December before we got ready to go on winter break for my students so that they could have access to groceries, fresh fruit and vegetables during the 2 weeks that they were going to be off of school. And you would be surprised at the number of parents who called me so thankful that I did that for them, because they knew what a struggle it would be for them just to simply be able to get to the grocery store. I also work with children who are vegan, vegetarian, Muslim, and they often come back to class hungry. So hungry, in fact, that I have to keep a stock of snacks in my classroom. I spend hundreds of dollars on snacks to ensure that my students have what they need to make it through the day. Now, when we think about the fact that I teach in a Title I school in a food desert and the children do not like the lunches, how do we expect them to make any academic gains? They are struggling to pay attention because they are hungry. When I look at this report, I have so many questions. I ask myself, how do we know that the students enjoy the new food items? How do we know that they're not leaving hungry? The way that we gauge if our nutrition program is doing well is by the number of students who do not leave those cafeterias hungry. My daughter would rather bring lunch from home than eat lunch at school. That is an issue. It is also a privilege that I'm able to provide her with an opportunity to bring lunch to school. My students don't have that same privilege. You all, I really think that we have got to dig deeper when we look at these reports. Director Gokul Gandhi brought it up on Tuesday. All of these reports are really just fluff. Like, it's you all patting yourself on the back and not doing the hard work of analyzing and evaluating. Now, I don't often encourage y'all to do a survey because we know how that goes. But I think that yearly, we should be surveying the students across the board, not just select groups, not just the food task force. We should be surveying our students K through 12 every school year about nutrition, what they would like to see, what meals aren't they eating, what differences would they like to see happen, so that we can really begin to address on an equitable basis, right? Giving each school and each student what they need to be successful. beginning to address that. So I know this report was cute. I agree, it was super cute, but we need to dig deeper, y'all, and we need to do better when it comes to nutrition. Thank you.
Thank you.
Because on social
Right.
media,
So
there's a bunch of parents saying.
this item was an informational item.
Unacceptable.
Is there any more comments?
That's correct. This was an informational item. Madam Chair, no action is required.
Excellent. So Madam Secretary, next item, please.
Madam Chair, that was the last item on this meeting's agenda. As a reminder, a special meeting of the board will begin shortly after the adjournment of this meeting.
Will there be no further business before the committee? This meeting is adjourned.